welcome back to Splice Splatter, the film podcast where classic horror.
It's modern gore.
We're your hosts. I'm Siena.
And I'm Al.
And welcome to the podcast you've all been waiting for. I feel like this is like the one we've talked about and gotten asked to do and resisted doing the most in the entire time this podcast has existed.
Yeah. This is definitely
like there's
been the
probably
one.
I don't think there is any pair that we have mentioned on air and not covered more.
Yeah, this is that
Good point, Al. My earrings are indeed hitting the cord. I'm sorry for those of you who heard that in the intro. We won't have that continue for the rest of the pod.
Yeah, I was
if you're watching the video, you got to see it for a second, but
I was like, I heard clicking. I'm like, I don't know. It's a Friday night for us. Is it the clicking outside or inside of our heads? And covering both of these
movies, a little bit of both, but
I feel like it could be anything. But yeah, this one I think you made a bold statement for those of on pod. Like what? I feel like episode 2. We've maybe
something like that
really early
it was
on.
Very early on, because this is one of my most controversial horror opinions.
Yeah, well,
is how much I hate Midsommar, for those of you who haven't heard this on like 50 other episodes.
And for those of you that are like me, I love Midsommar. So I kind of love when we're like this, because it does not happen often. But again,
it's very rare.
We're not an opinion podcast. I have really good facts that I think you're maybe gonna hate to enjoy, and I hope to make you hate to enjoy them.
I think I really think it's going to be very similar to It Follows, where like talking about it was talking about why I hated it was part of the fun and cathartic, and also like helped me maybe get to a place of less hatred. But I also think this is just a movie that you either love or hate, and there's nothing in between. And I know, like,
I agree with that. Yeah, absolutely.
And that is powerful in itself, and we love that about cult films. And so like I can respect it from a furious distance.
I was saying kind of off air to Siena that I will throw them a bone at the end of this. Or for those of you who also agree with Siena, I'm sure there are people that are equally listening to this that feel one way or another. I'm very excited, though, for maybe people who don't like it. Again, we are here to share the behind the scenes making of. I was very pleasantly more surprised than I thought, because I actually don't know much about Ari Aster. I'd only have seen this in Hereditary, so I can't say that I'm coming in as a stan of him so much as I really like this film. So I think it's a nice place for me to live too, because I don't really feel very indifferent about him I don't know anything about him as a person except for what I've read for this, and I was like, oh, it kind of opened up a little bit of how I felt, at least again for this film. I don't know anything past Midsommar, so I can't speak on any other things. But yeah, so I'm excited to share for that reason. But I'm gonna throw you a bone. I have a really nice review source that I want to share with you all at the end. But I'm gonna save that. So
excited.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that, because I do feel like even if it's not my cup of tea, it very much seems like a film that it is so visually careful and precise that like I am sure there's a lot of really cool work that went into making it, and like I'm excited to hear about that.
Yeah. Because you've just seen this once, right?
I've seen it twice now. Well, like the
original
once
time
before the podcast. Yeah. And I saw it when it was in
you're
theaters.
Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like I saw it when it came out, and because you forced me to, Al.
I really went in with an open mind, because I was like, there's a very good chance that like having been through the podcast, having like you know, matured in my horror taste, hopefully that like my feelings would have changed, and they only intensified. But that's okay. That was an interesting experience.
Yeah, for sure. And then I hadn't seen Wicker Man prior to this, so I'm really excited to talk to you about Wicker Man. So I might just save my opinion until the second.
I think we should, especially because I kind of I feel like you teased to me off air at some point that you were expecting to not like it.
Yes, so I think I did that on air too. So I'm like very excited to talk about it. So I'm going to save that. I'm not going to say anything.
Fabulous. Yeah, we'll not give any hints to that one.
Yeah.
Do we have any housekeeping that we need to do up front?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Oh, vote for us if
I think that
you
might be
feel like
over.
it. Yeah. Is it over?
I think it
Oh my
might,
gosh, what is
or it's like a
time?
second round. Aren't we awful? I don't know. Time
I
is
I
flying. May
I
is
should
gone.
reveal May is gone. May Midsommar May did not really
Yeah, yeah,
happen.
yeah.
Um
We had a Mayday, a Mayday, Mayday. You know what I mean?
Indeed. Yeah, we're screaming mayday for help. I am, to be very frank with you all, operating on 4.5 hours of sleep and more coffee than I've had since
Oh my
college today.
goodness. Oh
So we're gonna
no.
see how long it lasts for.
Last? Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah. I feel like this is gonna
Woohoo.
be my equivalent of the episode where you had, what was the comment? You had like
Listen, I don't
ice
want to talk
cream and
about that.
coffee?
Yeah,
Something
and
like that?
beer.
That's what it was. Ice cream, coffee,
let's
and
let us
beer.
not drudge up the past, Sienna. That's a horrible place to go. On
Let's
that
look
note,
Let's look ahead to the spring, to the seasons turning.
truly
Yeah, that's the best I've got.
forward. Let's go forward.
Let's go forward.
Tidbit? Anyone? Bueller?
I actually don't have
Me
one for this
either.
because it's
Great.
so, yeah, I have a very dense episode
I
for
believe
my
it.
half,
Oh, I believe it.
and I just could not unpick any piece of that wicker into
Yeah.
like a neat, like all of the juiciest stuff is going to require like 5 minutes to set up.
Oh.
So,
Oh my gosh, amazing. Great.
yeah,
Well, let's just fucking
let's
go
just
for it
dive
and
in.
see
Yeah.
how it goes. So,
Dance naked through the fire, as I feel like,
truly.
yeah, kind of
um
happens to one degree or another in both films.
oh, absolutely. It does, for
Mhm.
sure. I'm first, right? Please
You are
think. Okay.
first.
I was like,
Yes.
huh. Okay, so Midsommar 2019, we know this. Ari
Mhm.
Aster, we said it. Hereditary, he did that right before this, which I totally forgot.
Yeah. It was
2018.
like, that's right, yeah, it was like almost like the Guadagnino from Call Me by Your Name to Suspiria.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like
It's
that
very,
close.
I just can't imagine doing projects that are this beefy, this close to one another.
Indeed.
So everyone, I feel like those are the main two. He also did Beau is Afraid and Eddington, and
Mhm.
then was a producer on Death of a Unicorn and Begonia,
Oh,
which I
that's
feel like
right.
was all over the Oscars.
Mhm.
I have
Still haven't
no,
seen it,
yeah,
but
haven't seen those last four. So
mhm.
again, we're coming in with limited Ari Aster knowledge, and I'm not a fangirl in that way.
Did you see this one in theaters?
That no, I think I was late to seeing
No.
this
Oh,
one. I don't think I
interesting.
saw this one in theaters. I didn't see Hereditary in theaters.
Wow.
I watched that
Mhm.
one
I
with my
didn't see that one in
mom,
theaters.
and I remember
Whoa,
going into
that's
it
a
knowing
bad combo.
I watched. Yeah, right. I watched one of the last times we talked.
Mhm, mhm.
But we went into it not knowing anything, and I was like, "Oh my god!" So I remember
Yeah.
when Midsummer came out. I don't. There's no way I saw it in theaters. That's when I started to fall off because it was like right before COVID, and so I feel like I was
Yeah.
slowly, sadly, not going to the movies as much. And little did I know that
Yeah,
was
we
a
didn't
bad
know what we were
decision
about to be
to make.
missing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, but I've watched it a ton of times since. Florence Pugh is the love of my
Your
life.
wife, yeah.
She is my
And
wife. I know that's so creepy to say, but I love her so much.
and I feel like I need to, as a disclaimer, say that, like, not only do I think it's visually beautiful and the cinematographer did an incredible job, but like Florence Pugh's performance is pitch perfect. She did no wrong in this movie.
Ugh,
I love her.
snaps for that. I will
That's
happily have that the only thing that we agree on. I will
yeah,
settle there, and I live in a
fabulous.
very happy place there. So thank you
I
for
knew that
that.
I need to clarify this. My beef has nothing to do with Florence. I adore her.
Yes.
She's incredible
She
and deserves to be
is.
protected.
Yes, absolutely. So, and we're gonna skim over the cast too, because again, there's so much to talk about. So,
Yeah.
development of Midsommar. How did Ari Aster come to write and direct this film? So this is something I didn't know. He was actually approached 5 years prior to making the film by, I think, a friend who was Swedish, and a Swedish production company called Be
Whoa.
Real, like film real, Be Real, which is a great
That's
name. We
really
love a pun
cute.
on this
That's
pod,
very
as we all
cute.
know. And so they asked him to potentially direct a horror film set in Sweden. So I thought he had come up with this all on his own. He was
Yeah.
approached.
Oh my god, I have so many questions right off the bat.
Right?
I'll hold them back,
I
but
don't know if I'll have the
wait.
answers, but
Okay, no, I have to ask a couple of them
yeah, yeah,
actually.
yeah.
Wait, so
We'll see if I have the
this
answer to this.
5 years before this, that would be 2014. I think he was at college in Santa Fe at that time.
Yeah, he might have. I was gonna say for people who don't know too, New Mexico. So he moved back to New Mexico, I think, when he was 10 years old. It sounded
Okay,
like,
yeah.
and then went. Obviously lived like formative years in New
Mhm.
Mexico. But yeah, so that would. I feel like that math would math. So again, this was
Yeah.
like pre even him writing Hereditary,
Yeah,
or he had
how did
not
they
directed.
approach him for like, he hadn't directed a feature at that point.
No, it was I belie one of the people from the company was a friend of his, so I think it's the very Hollywood, like, and I he
Got it.
named him in a bunch of articles, so you can find, like, the name of the person, but worked for this company, and so because of that connection,
Mhm.
I'm sure they were like, "We have something," and then I'm sure too, maybe there was, like, talks of Hereditary at that time, so maybe he already kind of had a deal, and so they were like, "Let's hop on this before he
Mhm.
does something big." So,
Got it.
yeah, through
Interesting.
kind of a connection. And
Wow.
so again, he didn't like kind of come up with this idea of like a film set in Sweden all on his own. And
Fascinating.
he was going through a breakup at the time and actually really wanted to write a breakup movie, but was having a hard time finding that entry point. So when he was kind of offered this, he
Mm.
was like, I kind of wanted to approach this film, unlike Hereditary, in a
Mhm.
way that wasn't what he called like the kitchen sink, been there, done that kind of
Mm.
breakup movie. And so I have a quote from him with coming up with that idea. He said he, quote, saw a way to marry the breakup movie with a movie more traditionally linked in folk horror structure. And that was my way
Mm.
of working through a breakup and piecing through the ruins of the now failed relationship in a way that felt productive and maybe also destructive, which I kind of love.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I feel like
yeah,
both
yeah.
are
Both are
true.
true. And when it came to like the genre of Midsommar, he said overall, quote, for me, the film incidentally is a folk horror film. If anything, this
Mhm.
is my attempt at making a big operatic breakup movie that feels the way breakup feels. It sort of
Mhm.
makes literal those feelings where a breakup can feel apocalyptic, like the world is ending. And also there's this
Mhm.
pleasure in taking a movie to that extreme. So he goes on to say, anybody watching the trailer for Midsummer, you probably know where it's going, right? These people are going to be sacrificed. And so that made it the least interesting thing for me. It was about getting
Mm.
to that inevitable ending where it feels way more emotionally surprising. And my way in was kind of by working through my breakup. So again, he also, I have a quote in a little bit. He talks about it kind of being this fantasy. So I
Mm.
didn't know. I thought it was like his intent were like my understanding was like Ari Aster wanted to make a folk horror film set in Sweden and it happened to have a
Mhm.
breakup, and I didn't realize it was
Mm.
kind of the complete opposite of that.
The
So I was like,
opposite.
"Oh, that's really
Interesting.
interesting."
I knew about the breakup part, I didn't know about the Sweden part, and I'm,
Yeah.
like, mind boggled by that.
Right? It
That's
it kind of again, not like I don't have an issue with any of these things, but I did see like a that's interesting that he would want to like go there. I always find it interesting when storytellers want to tell stories that are so far from them.
yeah.
And so I found it a little bit more like, oh, okay, like he was approached and that really wasn't what
That
interested him. It was his
that,
opportunity to
like,
tell something that was close to him.
makes me like it a little bit more, I'll be
See,
honest.
I knew it because
Yeah.
it made me kind of go
That
like, oh, because I know, I feel like I know where you're going to come from. And
yeah.
I was surprised.
Although I'm also like, it's interesting on the other hand,
Yeah, on the other
it's
hand,
it's
the flip side.
interesting that, like, that a Swedish company would want this because
I
it's the sort
know,
of thing
right?
that,
Didn't do
thinking about
great.
how hostile was
Yeah,
received,
yeah,
like,
not great
the
PR.
town was like, "Don't portray us this way,"
Yeah,
right? And so the fact that Sweden is like, "We want this." I
sure.
mean, it's not the government, but,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
it's a
yeah.
Swedish company. I'm like, that is there's some
It's
interesting
interesting.
things to chew on there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's like there's I mean everyone knows there's so much about this.
Yeah.
That I'm sure if you dig enough you can probably find direct quotes from them of like
Mhm.
why. I'm just assuming too cuz like a friend really believed in him and worked for this company that they were like, yeah, sure,
Yeah.
not thinking about potentially consequences of how that could come across.
Across, yeah.
Yeah. And just like a little note too, he goes on record a few times saying some like PR for himself. He's like saying that the movie there was no like surrogate for his ex-girlfriend in this film. He was like, I don't want to set fire to my girlfriend, but he was like, I want to set fire to a relationship ending and have it be cleared out. So I love that he was like, let me be really clear, like, yes, this is about a breakup, but in no way do I want to be
It's not necessarily
harmful.
my
Yeah,
breakup.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I thought that was funny. He like goes on record saying that. um
Well, and, like, it's not the girlfriend in this who's, um,
no,
the
it's a good for
problem in the
her.
relationship.
Yeah.
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 So, and I love that too. I think that that felt good to see too.
Mhm.
It is a good for her by the end, at least,
Yeah.
by the end, by the very, very end. So obviously we know Be Real was produced this film. It was also produced with Ari Aster's company Square Peg, which I always forget is his for some reason.
Mhm.
And
It's a
then
good name
it's a
too.
great name. And A24, of course, came in and acquired the distribution rights. So they handled all the marketing for the film, which they did for Hereditary. So it only made sense
Mhm.
that they did the same for this. They'd love to do that.
It's so interesting because we think of it as, like, an A24 film, that
Hmm.
it's not actually their money.
Mm-mm. No, they were just like, we'll
Hmm.
market this and then get a really good cut of the deal,
Get
which,
so much
of
money from it,
course.
yeah.
So film influences,
Mm.
depending, you may or may not have noted, there is intentionally, whether you see it or not, a lot of Stanley Kubrick, The Shining influence. So
Mm.
specifically, when they all enter the commune, we have those like overhead shots that are very reminiscent of the opening of The Shining, which we will talk about.
Yeah.
So put a note. I have a
Cool.
fact about that. It's like one of my favorite facts about
Ooh.
this. Obviously we have like slow zooms, static shots.
Mhm.
There is even, which I missed, and I tried to find like a screenshot. I would have to watch the film, but there, the iconic pattern from the Overlook Hotel carpet
Mhm.
is at one point on Danny's blanket in the beginning of the film, and I
Oh, I
missed
love
it
that. That's
again.
so
So you can
cool.
rewatch that. He also Ari Aster also calls Midsommar Wizard of Oz for perverts, which I think is just a great sentence.
That
With the
definitely makes
scarecrow.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is actually a picture of the scarecrow from Wizard of Oz in one of the apartment scenes, and then obviously at the end, the
Ah,
corpse of what's his
yeah.
name is stuffed with straw. So we get an
And we have the
actual
cowardly bear instead of the
the
cowardly
cowardly
lion.
bear. Oh my god,
Yeah.
absolutely. Ugh, yeah, I love that. I love men getting burned. Just kidding, not in real life. In the context of this. But so good. Moving on. So another another source key site. I was like, please somebody take that as a threat. That was a weird thing to say. It is 8 o'clock on a
Just
Friday.
soundbite
Oh my
just that
god.
out.
Cut that out. Cut that out. Sienna,
I mean, it is
cut
something
the
that
cut the
both of
cut
our
the.
films have in common is men getting
I
burned.
know.
Yeah.
Men should have been burned at the stake, not women. That I will stand by. So
There we go. That we can soundbite.
I will soundbite that. Put it on a shirt. Sew it on a pillow.
Oh my god.
Ari Aster also cites the I'm just moving on, 1981 Albert Brooks film Modern Romance, which, if you
Oh.
don't know, is a film about an editor who is constantly breaking up with and getting back together with his girlfriend. That's like the short gist. And I have a
Mhm.
quote. I have lots of quotes from him, so buckle up. Um,
Fabulous.
he said, Ari Aster said, quote, whenever I go through a breakup, I tend to go straight through my favorite breakup movies, as we all do.
Mhm.
I always find myself returning to Modern Romance or Scenes from a
Mm.
Marriage, which the
Ah,
show, yeah, the
I
show.
knew it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was, I
Like,
haven't seen the original, but the show with Oscar Isaac and Jessica
oh,
Chastain truly had me sobbing over wine in a way that I've
ugh,
never sobbed over wine
I
before in my life.
and
So,
see, I haven't seen the new version, but watching this, I kept thinking, "Oh my god, there are so many Ingmar Bergman references in
mhm.
this."
Yeah.
The guy who directed the original version because
Yeah.
he's Swedish and there's a lot of like quotes from his
Mhm.
filmmaking.
Oh,
So,
I love that you saw that because I had no kind of context to the original material of that, just the show. And but it makes sense. I
love.
feel like if no one,
Yeah,
go watch either, I'm sure they're both great. Pick your
indeed.
poison.
Indeed.
So it does make a lot of sense. And so he goes on to say, if anything, I would love for this movie to fill that space for people in terms of like having this be a breakup movie that they watch. He said, I was excited about making the film that people might potentially return to when they're going through a breakup. Oh, I should have just read the
Mm.
fucking quote. That was my grandiose objective when I was fantasizing about what I might do. Now that I've finished it, I just hope people don't go back and find the errors. Which I love that he's like, no, I know, I understand there's errors. Yeah.
Interesting.
Again, he was a little more he's a little more humble than I was expecting. At least in the quotes. He's talking to
That is,
people.
not what I've
Yeah.
heard.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
same. I feel like I have like
yeah.
a so I'm that's why I'm so excited to share kind of these facts because I'm hoping it kind of alleviates some of the
Dims
symptoms.
the
Yeah.
hatred a little bit.
Yeah. Um, he also kind of talks, which I think Jordan Peele might have kind of talked about this, and I think we've even talked about this
Mm.
before, but he talks about how genre film as comfort food, which I always forget is like
Mhm.
a wonderful way to talk about genre film.
Totally.
And so he says, in many ways, genre films are comfort food to people because people know the tropes. There's this sort of
Mhm.
unspoken contract between the filmmaker and the audience, and it becomes how about you either fulfill that contract or withhold it in a purposeful way.
Mhm.
There are a lot of European genre films that traffic in withholding, and in many ways, I find those more exciting and more interesting than the genre films that just indulge in an audience expectations in a rote
Mhm.
way. And then again, he kind of talks about how he sees Midsummer, like I mentioned earlier, as this fairy tale more than anything, saying that it has very much a structure of a fairy tale. It feels very fairy tale like, which is like, I guess, with like folk horror and folklore obviously has this fairy
Mhm.
tale element, but I always like again, I feel like I kind of like wiped a slate clean and like re-looked at Midsummer in a
Mm.
different way.
Interesting.
This time around where I'm like, okay, it truly is a breakup film. It truly is this
Yeah.
kind of like fantasy. So I have another quote from him saying, if you're just looking at it from Danny's trajectory, and she is the person we're most aligned with, at the beginning she
Mhm.
loses a family, and at the end she gains one. Part of the fun of making this film was making a film that functioned for most of the visitors as a folk horror film, but for the character that we were most joined to, it's something else. It ends up
Mhm.
revealing itself as a perverse wish fulfillment fantasy. It's doing two things at once. You could see this place as
Mhm.
being a real lived in place with a rich history and deep traditions. Or you could watch the movie in a way that has this community function strictly as a manifestation of Danny's will. They're not only here to provide her all the needs she's being denied. And so I kind of love
Mm.
that he's like, again, we kind of talk about directors, especially director writers, having
Yeah.
like, no, it's this thing. And I love that he's like, depending on how you want to experience this, it can be those things for you.
There's a few
Um,
different versions.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of like, because again, I feel like I kind of have fluctuated, um, kind of depending on the watch, especially this time
Mm.
in either space. Especially when I first watched it, I'm gonna be honest, I was like, "What the fuck? Did that all just, like, happen? Or is this, like, a bad trip?" Like, I don't know what's
Right.
real or not, and I love that he's like, "It kind of is what you want it to be."
It's a little
With having
bit
a
little of
point,
column A,
but
little of column B.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then obviously kind of talking about, like, what you want it to be, he always makes sure to note that this is, quote, "not Swedish history, this is folklore," and he's like, "It's not based on real reality." Again,
Mhm.
reminding that like he was kind of approached to do this and then he kind of put his story upon it. And
Mhm.
then when it comes to the Swedish folklore, there obviously were some historical myths and legends that were kind of twisted within this. So I'm just going to talk about a couple. So,
Ooh.
and here's where we get into like I have to look so hard to make sure I pronounce everything
Oh my god, I'm
correctly.
sure.
I was like, "Why do I always do this to myself?" I'm so
Oh
sorry,
my god,
everybody.
yeah,
I
that's
do not mean to offend. I look up how to pronounce everything. I write it phonetically, and sometimes I still mess up, and so
we
I
really
promise I
try.
try because I
Yeah.
just hate to, be that person.
You're gonna
So
do great,
I'm
sweetie.
gonna try. So, he along the way, he researched Halsengards, which that one's
Mm.
easier to say. I'm not going to do any accurate pronunciations, but which is a centuries-old farm that typically had painting on the walls. So that's kind of obviously where we see this
Mm.
stylized look of the film, which we will talk about for a
Mhm.
minute. He also, which I thought was kind of a bummer, he did not attend any real-life May Day or Midsummer celebrations himself,
Wow,
but he
interesting.
did research them. But I was like, oh man, if I was doing this, I'd absolutely be
Oh
like,
my
I need to
god,
go all the
yeah.
places.
I
And
would
I
insist,
wouldn't, yeah,
yeah.
truly. I'd be like, fly me there on the budget.
Mhm.
Like for free, I get to go and do
Yeah,
this.
we're building
Absolutely.
that in,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
And then which I will not go into, but I will note he specifically drew inspiration from Theosophy, which is a religious movement
Mm.
established in the US in the late 19th century, founded primarily by the Russian Helena Blavatsky. So if you want to look that up,
Oh.
it was
Oh,
so
she's
beefy.
complicated,
And
yeah.
I was like, that's gonna be the whole podcast, so I'm just putting that out there. There's a
Yeah,
bunch of information for you.
she would take way too long to get
Yeah,
into.
I started to read, like, even just, like, the gist of the Wikipedia page. I was like,
Mhm.
"Nope, this is another podcast. That's a history
Yep.
podcast." I'm sure there's a podcast about,
I'm
her
sure there's
somewhere.
gotta be one, yeah.
So, I'm gonna
Drop
leave
us a
that to the
recommendation if
yeah,
there's one that y'all like, but
truly, because I would like someone to digest that for me
yeah.
and regurgitate it back. So, leaving that there, everyone can have a homework assignment if you're interested. So, also there is real life reference. Obviously the Harga's like cliff jumping scene that I feel
Mhm.
like is so notorious is highly debated, but also kind of assumed to be this Nordic legend. So,
Mm.
excuse me, it was apparently a practice in Norse mythology called Attestupa, which is
That's the word that we heard, yeah.
yeah, so it kind of tells us that the elderly were expected to sacrifice themselves for the good of the village. So just kind of like their friend explained to
Pele?
them, yeah,
Yeah.
Pele, thank you. That is kind of this again very debated kind of
Interesting.
legend or history. We also hear the number 9 as a reoccurring theme in the film. So we know that the
Mm.
life cycle of the Harga people is based on the 4 seasons. And then we have the age of each season ends with multiples of 9, and also, of course, this is a
Mm.
90-year celebration. That's
Mhm.
because 9 has been a significant number in the myths around Odin, the Norse god, and he hung upside down for 9 days so that the world would gain
Oh.
knowledge. So that's kind of where we get
Oh,
that mythology from,
interesting.
which I didn't know.
That's
Um,
a cool image,
which
yeah.
I feel like I know a lot about Odin through Marvel. Nobody at me. Uh, I know so much. Marvel's
Listen,
so
if
historical.
if there's one
That wasn't.
thing that the MCU has done, it
It's not
is
explain 9.
teach us a bit exact soundbite that.
It like weirdly has taught me at least the names. So.
Yeah, no, it's like I feel
Listen.
like as a culture, we are much more aware of Norse mythology now as a result
Through
of
honestly, I
Marvel.
hate to say it, through Marvel, absolutely. But I just thought that
Yeah.
was interesting. I didn't know that. So so stupid. Listen, I have to have one stupid take every time.
That's a stupid.
Hot to stupid. Gotta
I'm
get that
so sorry. I
tattooed.
hope we don't have any Norse listeners.
We're calling me stupid, to be fair, not anybody else.
Not Norse culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I put this where it was, but here we go.
Great.
Talking about fact. So there is also Old Norse poetry, and a ritual called Blood Eagle. So that's where we see the friend at the end with his he's
Mhm.
hung up with his lungs hanging out, which apparently was supposed to be a more gruesome scene. He was supposed to be
How?
hung by see, this is where it's gruesome for me, I feel like. He was supposed to be hung up by his Achilles tendons.
Okay,
And I
that's pretty
have a thing
gruesome.
about Achilles tendons. Like, I don't like that in
Yeah.
hostel. I had
Mm.
after I broke my ankle, I had to, like, stretch
Oh.
mine out because it was tight, and that
Ah.
shit is diabolically
Mm.
painful for some reason. So, I don't know. More gruesome for some, less for others, but,
Both pretty
um,
gruesome.
both pretty gruesome, but it comes from Old Norse poetry and the ritual, like I said, called Blood
Mm.
Eagle, where the victims would be laid on their stomach and their ribs would be severed from the spine and then their lungs pulled out through the opening
Ugh.
to create the pair of wings. So that is,
Ugh. Ugh.
yeah, it's so fucked up, and it's like
You
one of
love
I
this.
love it, Sienna. Can you tell by my smile? I feel like you guys can hear me smiling through the microphone.
Oh,
I
absolutely they
loved
can.
it because it made me feel the fact that like his lungs are moving. I'm just like, oh my god, like is he in there? Is he even conscious? Like kind of is he? I don't know. It horrifies me in the best way. So, um, and then we have the Harga. Obviously, they're not based on any real, like, true real person, but they because he wanted them to feel as believable as possible,
Mhm.
he kind of created their own language. So that's where we see the
Mm,
symbols and the runes. So within that, they kind of have
interesting.
their own language. They obviously, if you note, they all have their own symbol that you can see on their costumes. So Danny has the
Oh,
R symbol. Christian has the
interesting.
up arrow at the end when he's in the robe, and then the two out. If you kind of look back or note, the two older Harga people who sacrifice themselves,
Mhm.
when they put their bloody hands on the tombstone, those two
Was it those
symbols
symbols? Ugh.
foreshadowing that they were gonna take their
Mm,
place in the cult. Which I'm
mhm.
like, so simple, so genius.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But they've killed one of them.
I mean,
They've killed Christian.
but then they're probably just gonna replace him again.
Yeah, no, you're right.
They're like, the cycle goes on. Someone's gonna take it eventually. They'll bring another
We're
one
gonna go
in.
through
Yeah.
9 Christians. What are you
Yeah.
talking about?
Truly. So what I mean, their fate was their fate. It's just his was a little earlier than they got. Trav just noted and they got what they needed from Christian. His boner. Truer
True.
words
They
have never been
yeah.
said. Um,
Yeah.
facts. Facts. But oh, and then the one
Why did
last
we bring this up? Because facts.
because facts. And then the last thing about the Harga cult is their name kind of has this hidden meaning, or if you know anything about
Mm.
Sweden, not so hidden. So Harga is a real town in Sweden which Ari Aster
Oh.
chose because of a folk song called Hargalaten, which is where the devil in disguise, he disguised himself as a
Mm.
fiddler and then led every teenager up a mountain
Oh.
where he danced them all to death. And so that was why
Nice.
they're named what they were, which I didn't know. And it's such like a simple
That's
thing that,
fun.
I wouldn't know, but I'm sure anyone from Sweden was like, bitch, we know what's
This
going on.
it reminds me of the pig name from last episode with
Yes.
Stepford
Yeah.
Wives.
Hard
Yeah,
pig.
similar.
Yeah.
Hard pig, yeah, similar
Yep.
energy.
Yeah. So it's a fun little thing that I didn't note. Starring, we're gonna kind of breeze through starring because there's so many other juicy things to talk about. So
Yeah.
Flo Pugh is Danny. She's my beloved Yelena in Marvel's Black Widow,
Mhm.
Hawkeye, Thunderbolts. She's Amy March in Greta Gerwig's Little Women, and she's in Dune Part 2. We have Jack Rayner, who I always think I know as Christian. I don't know him from anything. He's in the series The Peripheral with Chloe Grace
Hmm,
Moretz.
hmm,
Cherry, the movie Cherry starring Tom
hmm.
Holland. 2014's Transformers Age of Extinction, and then Lee Cronin's 2026 The Mummy. So I'm excited to see
Ah,
him
interesting.
and what role he plays in that. We, of course, have Will Poulter as Mark. He's known for all of the roles. Maze Runner
Mhm,
franchise, Chronicles of Narnia as a baby. He's in The Bear, Death
mhm.
of a Unicorn, which we know that Ari Aster produced. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. He's in a Black Mirror episode, which I love to shout out, called Bandersnatch.
Mm.
And then
Ah.
he's most recently in the movie I Love Boosters, which is getting so much praise, and I want to see
I
so badly.
am dying to
It
see I
looks
Love
so
Boosters. It looks so
good.
good.
Yeah.
And I love Boots Riley.
Oh
I
my
Sorry
god.
to Bother You was amazing.
I feel like, yeah, I'm super excited to
Mhm.
see that, whether everything comes to streaming so fast. So I'm like, by the time I go see it in theaters, I don't know if it's gonna be
Yeah.
on streaming, but they're gonna get my money. So
Indeed. One way or
even
another,
yeah,
Boots
one way or
Riley will
another,
get my
they're
money.
getting my money. And then I wanted to shout out the first role that I saw him in, which was his first feature, which was 2007's Son of Rambo. And
Oh,
he was like fucking 7 years old. He was probably like 12.
baby
He was
Poulter.
so little, and I used to watch that movie all the
Oh,
time. It is such a cute little sleeper indie film. And I mean, he's just always been incredible. So I
I
love
forgot
him.
that he was in Chronicles of Narnia.
Yeah, I
Like,
know.
on
He kind of
some
always
level, my
plays like a
brain
little
knew
bitch,
that, but yeah.
which I
Yeah, he's, like,
love.
very, like, classic casting for this kind
Yeah,
of role. Like, this is
yeah.
a Will Poulter
It
role for
really, I
sure.
mean, his dumb little American accent is horrible. Especially
And of course he's gonna piss on the sacred tree. He's Will Poulter.
I just
like,
say you want to punch him in the face, and it's great. You just want all these men to die, and
yeah.
they're perfect. They unfortunately do a really good job of making me hate them all and just
Oh,
counting their
absolutely.
days for them.
Mm-hmm.
We have William Jackson Harper as Josh. He is
Ugh.
Cheaty in the good place.
Cheaty.
Yeah. So I was like, oh my God, I forgot that's where I know him from.
Yeah.
Arguably the least hateable of all of them.
Indeed. Yeah.
He is in 2016's Patterson with Adam Driver, Dark Waters, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, so that's where you might recognize him from. We have Wilhelm Blomgren as Pele. Sorry. And he is also in a TV series called Yosta, and then a mini series called Clark, and then 2025's Love Forever. So not like a ton of acting credits, but he's so compelling, and I think without a
He's
character
great.
like he's the perfect gateway friend to bring people. Like you trust him, he seems so sweet and sincere. He is that guy who goes out and is able to bring these dumb Americans in for this.
Yeah, he's very good at seeming like he's pretending to be guileless. Like he's
Yeah.
pretending to be very innocent.
Yeah.
In a way where like you almost buy it, but you have just this tiny little suspicion that there's something a little bit off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the portrait kind of reminds me, as we revisited Stepford, the original Stepford Wives. I was like, oh my God, the creepy drawing trope.
Totally. Oh my God, you're right.
No
I didn't
one
put that together.
I didn't either until I watched it. And I was like,
Ah.
oh, don't trust anybody that does a pencil drawing portrait of you
Oh my
without you
God,
knowing.
yeah. Yeah, without
Don't let
permission.
it, yeah, without
That's
permission.
so creepy.
If that happens, I don't know, run.
They're trying to they're trying to work some kind of curse on you.
Yeah, they're trying to body snatch you, throw you off a cliff. Who knows? So just be forewarned, on the lookout. That's a fun new trope. So we have
love.
Moving on, we have Archie Madekwe as Simon.
I love him
Farley
so
and Saltburn.
much. He's Farley.
He's
honestly
great in this too.
Yeah. Yeah, he's so good at, like, I feel like he's one of those actors who's really good at playing hateable, and yet I get such a strong impression that he must be a total sweetheart in real life.
Right? I feel like the people who play the most hateable characters are the biggest softies, or like people who play villains are like the opposite in real life. It seems to be the theme. He's so good in this. It's, I don't know. I wish he was in it longer. So yeah, Saltburn. He goes on to be in 2023's Beau is Afraid with Ari Aster. He's in Heart of Stone, a 2026 series called Steel. And then he's also in a Haim music video, All Over Me,
God,
alongside Will Poulter. So they both make a little cameo if you want to see them. And then lastly, we have Alora Torchia as Connie. So she's the partner of his character. She is Kat in House of the Dragon, which which is coming out next month.
Yeah.
I think
new House of the Dragon soon.
I don't know if she's in that. I don't know. Spoilers. She's also Priya in A Real Pain. That movie was a real pain to watch. She was great, but everyone else was horrible.
Incredible.
2021
Love this tea.
2021's Earth and 2026 Cold Storage. For extras, there were like 100 to 120 additional extras. And like none of them, I think for the most part spoke any English. So it was definitely a lot of translating, and I think there was like 3 languages over all the extras, but a lot of extras. And then I was sad we do not get a director's cameo, but apparently people on Reddit had speculated that he provided the voice of the news broadcasting that we kind of like overhear, but it was not him. People speculated that because he does have an uncredited voice cameo as Annie's art dealer on the phone in Hereditary. So
that makes sense.
But it has been disproved. He had an opportunity to do it though, and I'm like,
I kind of get the sense that Ari Aster is the sort of person who, like, if he has the money to get somebody else to do it, he's not going to want to do the cameo.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like the one in Hereditary was out of necessity.
Yeah.
Because like Stanley Kubrick doesn't do a cameo, and I feel like that's who he's like emulating.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, he's like, I'm good.
Oh my gosh, which also I just like realized way back in the conversation and didn't want to shout it out and ruin the flow, but because we're back at Kubrick, The Shining, also a breakup movie.
Oh my God, yeah. Absolutely.
It's a breakup movie. Yeah.
Unfortunately, that one, I mean, that was a good for her. It's not good for
It
her in real life.
is. Yeah,
And I think that
yeah.
outweighs
Bad for her behind
sometimes.
the scenes, so we can't
Yeah.
really feel that watching
Yeah.
it a lot, but
And actually, fun fact, the on Tubi, because I've had my like lives going and Tubi on a lot. Um, Stephen King's popped on of The Shining the other day.
Oh
And I
man.
forgot that bless him, that 90s kid who plays Danny, I could not deal with him, and so I
Oh
had to turn it off.
no. Oh
He was
no.
rubbing me the wrong way the other day, but one of these days I am gonna watch
We'll get
the
through it
Stephen,
someday.
yeah, someday,
Yeah.
not today. But that's so funny. Yeah.
Not today,
Yeah.
Steven.
Both big, big, big breakup movies for sure. That's a great thing to point out. So, location, and filming, they roughly shot for about 3 months. So they began filming in July and wrapped around October of 2018. Some of the early scenes, like Danny's apartment, were obviously filmed in places like Brooklyn, New York. Well, other scenes, like Christian's friend's house, was actually in Utah, which I find really random that they couldn't just, I don't know,
Yeah, that's
shoot
shocking.
wherever. Maybe they were just there. Maybe they couldn't get actors flown somewhere because of scheduling things. Who
Wow.
knows? So, some in
Interesting. I don't
Utah.
think Utah even has like good film tax credits. Like
No, I'm assuming it was probably just because like someone
fascinating
had to be close enough to be
to
on
something.
something
Yeah.
else. That's why it feels random. And then I was kind of shocked. A majority of the film was shot in Budapest, Hungary, rather than Sweden, mainly due
Hmm.
to financial constraints, which we hear all the
Interesting.
time.
Okay. Yeah.
And the fact
But
that
again, Swedish company.
they
What's going on, you
limit
guys?
they limit their shoots. They have to be no longer than 8 hours.
Oh, their labor laws are too good. That's
Of
so funny.
course, of course. Yeah, no, we learned this. Financial restraint really
Mhm.
means we couldn't spend
We
money
want to
on having
exploit
to
people
shoot more
more.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can't make this shoot go any longer. Oh my God, financial
Oh
restraints.
my
Yeah.
God.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So I have a quote from actor William Jackson Harper. He recalls shooting on location saying, quote, "It was hard. It was hard. I mean, we were basically in this field all day, every day. It was hot. And there were wasps and spiders, these big weird spiders with these green abdomens that I'd never seen before, and I
Oh
was sure were
my
going to kill me. So it was tough. It was a very
God.
arduous shoot."
I love this because I feel like he's speaking in like that has like the cadence of a Chidi line, like
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
rhythm
Yeah,
of
I can,
it.
like,
And
hear
I'm
him. I
just
don't think I
so
did a good
yeah.
impression, but I can hear him, absolutely.
I can hear it very clearly in his voice. Yeah.
Just probably, like, looking at camera like, "Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that. That was awful. That
That
was
was hard.
hard.
That was
That was
hard.
hard."
Yeah. Mhm.
I love that he said it. I love when, in quotes, people repeat themselves. So I'm like, "Oh, man." You
Yes.
know they're trying to be
Yeah.
so polite about this, and they have to think about the
Yeah, they're
next
holding so
words.
much back right there.
Yeah. So Ari Aster also worked with the film's production designer Henrik Svensson to develop like the film's
Mm.
folklore elements in these locations and
I'm guessing
traditions.
Swedish production designer. Sorry to interrupt.
Yes, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
yeah. And
that helps
so
also, I imagine.
yeah. So I thought this, I don't know why, like it's a duh moment, but also I'm like, damn. The interiors and the exteriors of the Harga village were built just for this, entirely
Wow.
from scratch, fully. I just, they look so lived in and
Mhm.
worn and beautifully telling these stories with paintings. And it's just like, I'm like, that's what good production design does for me,
Yeah.
where like I forget for a second.
It's like the Crimson Peak house where it's like so
Oh my
much effort has gone into making
God.
every
Every
detail of
detail.
that functional
Yeah.
and correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was kind of like, it's like, duh. But it's just,
Mhm.
it kind of like got me to read it. So I have a quote from him talking about this. He talks about the location, saying, "That field was empty when we found it, and from there we cultivated a field and built these giant houses.
Wow.
Then after we wrapped, it was all destroyed. We were ultimately doing the same thing, like the movie. It feels
Mhm.
kind of wasteful. Well, maybe there's something significant in the transient
Mm.
of the whole thing. It sort of is like the sand paintings that when you finish, you blow them away, or a sand garden imagine you spend so much time crafting, then you blow it away. Or to stick with the sand-based metaphors, this man loves sand,
Wow.
making
Yeah.
a sand castle and watching the ocean take it away. Of course, you have to film it
This
for
is where you could tell he grew up in New Mexico.
I'm also just picturing him just being like, it's like sand, and he's just like trying to be
Or
like,
sand? Or maybe
I feel like
sand.
I feel like there was like a more eloquent way of me saying this too, of him saying this, and he was like so stuck on this. And I do kind of love it though, because it is, I can imagine building this village, and then for the,
Yeah.
not only for the film, you're like burning it down, but it's just like after you have to destroy this beautiful thing that you made because, it's just this lot that you
It's done.
rented or,
Yeah.
used for this.
Yeah.
Um,
I
yeah,
mean, you
and
don't want a real cult to come and move
yeah,
in.
yeah,
Like,
and they
what's the
would
goal if you
probably.
keep that property going? Yeah.
Truly. But then at the end, he kind of says there's something perverse about creating a world that you can stand in and live in for an
Mhm.
extremely short amount of time, only to have it disappear. And I kind of love that
Yeah.
he had this um, kind of feeling like true emotion
Mhm.
towards this set that he had built. And he's kind of like, it's like life imitating art in that way of,
Mhm.
it sucks to have to burn it, but like you have to burn your art and move on to the next thing. So I kind of
Mhm.
was like, oh, okay, Ari, like I see you
Yeah.
trying to like be in your little feels. I was surprised. I was just
Dig into your
surprised.
sand.
Yeah, dig into
Yeah.
your little sand bucket and make your little castle with your little shovel to let the ocean come. He's just weeping about it. He goes home, he just cries.
Oh my
I
god.
feel like
This
maybe he
again.
had like trauma with a sandcastle as a
y-
child that someone stepped on, and
Yeah,
this
no,
is
again, I'm
his.
like, this is so New Mexican to be like every metaphor that I have is sand based.
That's so, I didn't even think of that. It makes, he really is starting to make sense to
Yeah.
me as a person,
All the
bit by
pieces are
bit.
coming
Yeah,
together.
slowly, like
Grain
little
by
sand.
grain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little sand grains coming together to make a beach. He'll love that one.
Mhm.
Um
It's his
so
favorite kind of metaphor.
truly, just honestly, if anyone meets him in real life, just talk sand metaphors to this man
He'll
and
love
maybe,
you.
yeah, you'll
Yeah.
have it in. So we have our cinematographer. We have Paul Porgozleski. Oh my gosh.
Mm.
He is, I mean, I just love his work so much in this. If you recall, we did talk about him, or I don't know if I talked about him or mentioned him,
But we've
depending.
covered him for something.
Fresh. Mimi Caves Fresh. And
Oh.
now
Oh,
it
that makes
makes
so much
sense.
sense.
I
Yeah.
know. And I was
The
like,
like
God damn
very
it.
like symmetrical
Yes.
geometric
Yes.
compositions.
Yes.
Yeah, and
I
like
l-
lots of wide shots.
yes. And I love when a cinematographer can work with different directors on different projects and you see their stamp without having it be like the same thing.
Yeah, like it was
If that makes
adapted appropriately
yeah.
to each project, and yet
Hmm.
you can still tell that it's Pavel.
Yeah.
Like,
Is that
yeah.
how you say is it Pavel versus
Pavel, I think. Yeah.
Paul?
And
Sorry, everybody.
no, I think he's also from the name Polish.
Yeah. Okay.
Another
So that
Polish
makes sense for,
cinematographer.
wow,
Yeah.
of course I didn't look up his.
Mhm.
I was just patting myself on the back for looking up pronunciation. I thought I had it in the bag. Too
I got one
confident. This is
half for
what
you. I don't know
happens.
the second
So
half.
Pavel.
Mhm.
So he obviously did Hereditary and Beau's Afraid. Ari Aster seems to carry a lot of people like over on projects,
Mm,
which
mhm.
I love to see.
Yeah.
And he not only did Mimi Caves Fresh, he also did her film Holland after, which I still want to see. That's directed by
Oh,
her.
yeah.
And then I believe Marvel's Blue Beetle film, which I did not see. But
Interesting.
it seems good. So, when they talked about collaborating together, because again, this was their second film together at the time, in a short
Mm.
kind of time span, he said, quote, Ari will write, again, this is where I was like trying to get into like the mind of Ari Aster, with all the context that kind of have gathered
Yeah.
from him. Because again, I don't know anything about this
Mhm.
director at all. So, I could try to kind of hear what it was like to work with this man. So he said, quote, Ari will write an initial shot list for the entire movie on his own with all of these elaborate blockings and camera moves. So I think that's where we kind of all know this about him.
Mhm.
Then
Not
not
surprising. Yeah.
surprising. He goes, then we sit down and prep, go over all these shot lists and sketch out what the locations look like from these bird eye view plans that show how the actors and the cameras will move through the spaces. So again,
Mm.
we've kind of talked about this before, those overheads with with lighting. He goes, that helps us visualize things like which walls will potentially need to be moved or shots, and like what
Mm.
parts of the location were going to be seen on camera. So he walks in kind of knowing, okay, cool, he's got it planned. Then I come in and then we
Mhm.
talk together. We have another quote from actor William Jackson Harper, kind of about working with him, being specific. He goes, again, you can hear it in his voice.
Mhm.
The thing is, Ari is very specific about what he wants things to look like. And so we would do these things in long wide shots over and over and over and over and over again until we got them exactly right. So yeah, it was
Mhm.
taxing. We had to make sure that we would fit ourselves into the visual vocabulary. So I kind of keep bringing in
Interesting.
quotes about this as it will lead kind of to one specific moment,
Hmm. Cool.
and tie it back and end it from there. And then here's where I have another very, very long quote from Ari Aster, kind of talking about his attention to detail, talking about
Mhm.
how people know him for being this specific way. And I found like a control freak, I feel like,
Mhm.
is a wonderful way to put it. And I kind of
Yeah.
had this expectation of him, again, without knowing so much, just what I've heard. And I found this quote that actually was like, oh, this feels a little
Oh,
humbling. So I'm gonna
okay.
share it. It's long, so everybody buckle up
Love
for
it.
this one.
I'm
Lots of
ready.
buckling happening. I'm buckling. Just stay buckled, fasten seatbelts like a plane, just until I turn the sign off.
Keep that buckle
Keep
on,
it
yeah.
buckled on. So he says, quote, I always have a plan coming in. No shit. I'm not one who finds production to be a very creative time. It's very stressful
Mm.
for me. You're always chasing the clock and there's never enough time to get what you need. The
Mhm.
stress of that is not conducive to invention, at least he's
Mm.
speaking for him.
Mhm.
There are a lot of
Mhm.
filmmakers who like to figure it out on the day with the actor and be limber. I find that impossible. If I don't have a plan, I find it very hard to do anything.
Mhm.
The more
Mhm.
solid my plan, the more I am able to go with the flow and allow changes to happen. Usually nothing goes exactly to plan, which of course
Mhm.
on a film set, if you've
Yeah,
ever
it's
been,
film,
good
yeah.
luck. You find that the space doesn't allow for one thing or another, or that the blocking feels false or unmotivated in that
Mm.
space. If you don't have a
Mhm.
solid plan, you kind of discover that on set. Hopefully,
Yeah.
you have time to experiment with the actor and feel your way through it, but sometimes you don't have that time. And then rounding out this, he says, for me, production is mostly a manner of keeping my own as well as everyone else's morale up by hopefully executing things well so you can run it into the next scene feeling good about things that you've been doing
Mm.
as opposed to feeling discouraged. So I like that he's like, yeah, I am a control freak because if I don't do
Mhm.
this, I am setting myself up for failure and therefore
Yeah.
setting my crew and my actors up. Whether or not that is him not realizing maybe he is or is not a certain way, I do
Mhm.
appreciate that, like, as someone, I like to go in with plans and then go,
Mhm.
cool, I have my plan A, but then I know I
Mhm.
can have a B, C, D, E, like
Yeah.
if I have to, or the plan
Mhm.
goes out the window. And so I kind of like that approach. And I feel like I understand that approach. Because it sounds like he's just trying his best and maybe
Yeah.
overcompensating for a fact that he
Mm.
maybe isn't as creative as one, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's, like,
He's
artists
not an
in certain ways.
improviser. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, so
Like
I found that interesting to read, and have him kind of talk about himself. Again, I think he says it in this, like, blanketed term of, like, "It's not me," but
mhm.
it is him that
Yeah.
he's talking about in that, so
Yeah.
I don't know. Do with that, what you will.
It it could the quote could be a lot worse, we'll put it that
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
it could
absolutely.
sound a lot more,
It
like, yeah,
film bro-y and, like
intentionally, cruel, perhaps?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it doesn't sound like he's trying to be intentionally cruel.
No, yeah, and again, I was, like, kind of surprised by hearing, again, this is one quote from one source, so who knows what he's
Mhm.
blabbed on, everyone's PR trained, so,
Right.
I did, I texted you, Sienna, just to kind of see what I'm talking about, but everyone else, there are references as soon as you
Oh,
go online, so we're gonna kinda move into the aesthetics of Midsommar, and kind of, like, the lighting, camera, so, this was a lot of fun stuff, so obviously some references we talked about them earlier, but he also
Mhm.
specifically cited the 1947 film Technicolor Black Narcissus. I never
love
can say that
that
word out loud.
film.
I have
Oh, I
seen
love
so
that
many images
film.
of this film. It's so for everyone who's unfamiliar, or if you can't get to your phone right now, if you're driving, please do not pick up your phone. Look at it later. It is like this beautifully, I would say, like if you see watch this instead of watching those bad AI videos of like 80s
Yeah,
fantasy clips that
yeah.
I feel like everyone sees.
This
This is
is
it.
that.
This is
Yeah.
what they're all stealing
Mhm.
and spewing out shit from. It is so beautifully dreamy, and there's vivid blues, and there's skies, and there's bright orange lighting with green. Like it's just so
It's
dreamy.
stunning.
It's
This
so
is
dreamy.
this is so funny because I think I mentioned on the last podcast, Dana is out of town right now, and I sent
Yeah.
her away with a stack of DVDs to watch.
Was this
And
one?
one of the DVDs that I gave her was Black Narcissus, and she just watched it last week. And
No.
I asked her what she thought of it, and she was like, "I liked it okay. What was it from, like 1967?" And I was like, 1947.
47.
And she was
She
like,
was
"Okay,
gagged.
I
Yeah. She's
loved
like, "Wait a
this."
second.
Yeah.
Let me go back and
Hold
look at this
on.
with that."
Hold the fuck
It
on.
it
Yeah.
feels like it looks again, I haven't seen it, but I'm like, "Bitch, I gotta."
Yeah.
I think it's on one of my lists of things to watch as my long,
You're
notes.
you're
It's
definitely
so
gonna
long,
love it.
Sienna. But yeah,
Highly
it
recommend.
looks so I say 80s and, like, modern in the same sentence, which I understand
No,
is,
but like it
but
looks like it's 40 years younger than it is,
yes.
which is
Yeah.
wild.
47 absolutely has me floored. It's so beautiful.
Mhm.
So I kind of love again, I see it was like the fantasy aspect of stuff. I don't I see it in a softer palette. But this movie
Mhm.
looks so standalone, but I kind of love that that was a
Yeah,
reference of his called out. I love that you just sent Dana away with it
it's
cuz it's
so
yeah,
good.
it's
And
on
it
the
is very
list.
much it's very much in like a similar space in terms of like there's a lot to do with um characters going insane or like having
Mhm.
experiences that aren't necessarily totally in the real world.
Yeah. Ooh,
Yeah,
yeah. I'm sure we all again, if the name sounds familiar, or it doesn't sound familiar, look it up. It will
it's so good.
look familiar to you,
Like,
for
it's not
sure.
a horror movie, but
No.
horror fans will enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just looks stunning. So
Mhm.
that was something he cited for lighting, specifically as one
Mm,
would. Again, I see
interesting.
where, but also not. It won't be
Yeah.
copy paste. I just
Yeah.
think he probably really liked that film.
Very
Yeah.
fair. Yeah.
He was also thinking of the films of Powell and Pressburger, who are also
Mhm.
known as The Archers. So that's the name of their production company as well. They, again, made very influential films in the 40s and 50s. And so, again, talking about color with his production
Black
designer.
Narcissus is one of theirs. That's
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah, one of
don't,
many.
what's one of the other ones? I
Red
didn't know.
Shoes is another really famous
Ooh, okay,
one.
okay.
That's gorgeous. They did A Matter of Life and Death. Another one that's
That's
directed by just Powell, just Michael Powell, that I've mentioned a whole lot on the podcast is oh my gosh, I'm seeing the cover of it in my head right now.
Oh, I'm no
It
help on this. I'm so sorry.
it's from
Who's screaming?
1960 slasher film, like proto slasher
We'll have
film.
Trav drop it.
Peeping
Drop
Tom.
Peeping.
Peeping Tom.
Oh, Peeping
Yeah, which like we
Tom.
definitely have to cover at some point.
Yes. Oh my
So
God.
that's one half
Absolutely.
of
Oh
Powell
my
and
God. I didn't
Pressburger.
even
Mhm.
realize. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
You,
I
mhm.
I left everyone hanging. I kind of just threw it out there as a general, so I love that you were able
You
to
knew
fill
I would
in.
come with
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Yeah.
You'll fill in the blanks for me. Thank you. He also specifically cited the works of Armenian director Sergei Parajanov. He cites his film specifically The Color of
Oh.
Pomegranates and Shadow of the Forgotten Ancestors, which I looked up, and again, like I see and don't see him very he's very hyper stylized visuals,
Mhm.
often cited as inspiration for modern like folklore. So obviously that's where we
Mhm.
do see those elements. But I didn't bring any pictures in for any of us to look at, sorry. So everyone
There's some similar
can
like
Google.
flower crown costumes in The Color of
Sure.
Pomegranates.
Sure. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I'm like I see his references, and also I'm
Mhm.
curious what specifically he was pointing out for what
Yeah,
reason.
it would be
So,
interesting to hear more details about what he
yeah.
drew from each of them.
Yeah, so I'm sure those probably are out there, but again, there was a wide net that I had to cast out.
Mhm.
Obviously, talking about lighting when they were shooting the movie, we have to talk about how shooting under this harsh top light of the
Mhm.
sun. Obviously, we're outside most of the film, and how that was a challenge for them. So, our
I
cinematographer,
imagine.
Pavel, said that there
Mhm.
was a lot of testing to try and figure out what they could control, especially with dealing with
Mm.
sunlight and like the best time of day to shoot. So, they actually would do a lot of what they called sun scouting, which I love, which is where they'd be
Oh.
in the field with a stand-in and take a photo every 15 minutes to see how the sun reacted,
Mm.
and said it was just kind of
Interesting.
like a trial and error and like a lot of heavy
Mhm.
prep. And so
Mm.
ultimately they ended up shooting like French hours is what they called it most of the time, which is where you work through lunch and then have a 10-hour day. Again, I say
Mm,
French
mhm.
hours in quotes. I don't know if that's
Mhm.
still something that happens, but their call time would basically be at 7 a.m. Then they'd wrap
Mhm.
around 5 p.m. because the sun would rise when they were shooting
Mm.
around 4:30. So like by the time they
Mhm.
4:30 a.m. So by the time they got set up and ready
It
to
would be
roll at 8
yeah,
a.m., the sun would be
perfect.
high in the sky. And then same when they
Mhm.
wrapped, they said it was still pretty high in the sky, even though they
Mm.
had hills around them. So they were able to
Wow.
make use of all of those daylight hours during that time. He recalls the only time they really had to use actual lighting was in tighter coverage scenes when the sun was kind of
Mm.
disappearing end of the day, when they had to get some like quick shots that they weren't able to get early, and so they had to work on matching those lights to look like daytime. So he said
Mm.
otherwise for the most part they ended up using just so instead of using any um like electric lighting that we would normally see in set, they just use the sun, and then would have 20-foot
Mm.
by 20-foot frames on the ground, two that would have muslin and then one that would have extra bounce, like an ultra bounce, and then they would just kind of
Mhm.
like move those around accordingly. And then they also joked because the extras were all in white muslin also,
Yep.
that he said it was kind of like like jokingly he said, quote, it was like having walking bounces everywhere, and I love the challenge of shooting people dressed in white in pure sunlight.
Mhm.
We just had to see if we could pull it off. And then he later jokes, he's like, we should have just like used them as our bounce boards and had them
Yeah,
just
pretty
stand
much.
around me so we could light the scene that way. So I'm like, oh my God, I can only imagine having just harsh sun and then
It must have been
so
blinding.
there's
Like
some shots, especially when they're all around the cliff jump. I'm
yeah,
like, it
those are
looks like they're fighting for their
bright.
lives to
Yeah.
to get the color
To
grading
see.
correct for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Yeah,
thought that
true.
was so
Honestly,
funny.
I don't think they succeeded in some of
It,
those
there's
shots
some
in
of those
getting the
shots
color grading
they're
correct.
a little
They're a
dusty.
little overexposed,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Definitely. They're softer than and overexposed, as
Indeed.
you said. Yeah.
Mhm.
So again, he was fighting for his life, so everyone give him a break. That was a lot of white. And then of
Listen, it's
course
also a lot of white people,
a lot of
so
I was gonna say their skin was reflective
yeah,
too.
their
They
hairs,
were very
everything's
pale.
reflective. Their
That's
eyes,
that's
like
such a good point. Yeah, everything. Just the sand, the sun, the costumes,
mhm.
the hair, the
Mhm.
skin.
The
So
humans.
oh my god, yeah, a lot to work with.
Indeed.
And then speaking of the costumes, we have costume designer Andrea Flesch, who is a
Mm.
award-winning stylist from Budapest, Hungary, so where they shot.
Cool.
She also did wardrobe for Death of a Unicorn, which we talked about that
Mm,
he
mhm.
produced, and then 2025's Orphan, among other like
Oh.
shows and commercials. But when she talks about doing the costumes and kind of taking elements from Scandinavian folklore, but obviously creating their own world, as we said. So I have a
Mhm.
quote from her kind of talking about the costumes, which she did a
Ooh.
one of my sources, she did like a full Q&A, so you can read like a whole article with her talking with someone, but I extracted this specifically. So she talks about the costume, saying, for example, the first vision Ari Aster had was when we absolutely must start the movie in all white. Everyone must be in all white, which is not necessarily Scandinavian. So this
Mm.
already is something which is a little
Mm.
different, but we had to keep in mind that it had to look Swedish in a way. And also
Mm.
that we were in a small village where this group lives, so the Harga live, and they absolutely must make their own life. So it should look like they do their own costumes themselves, and
Mhm.
everyone has their own costumes. That's where we see all the runes specific to them.
Yeah.
She talks about that's why it was so very important for all the costumes to look different. Some of them are better made, some of them less made to see the difference. Because I'm
Mm,
sure like not everyone has the skill set to make their own
mhm.
clothes, which I'm like, oh my God, what a amazing detail to look out for.
Yeah.
So she says nothing comes from a fashion house or factory, and it's very important that it looks like homemade things. And then she talks
Mhm.
about how for the outfits, she even sourced 100-year-old antique linen from Hungary.
Whoa,
And then
that's
like
really
I
cool.
know, I was like, oh my gosh, it's got to be so fun looking at textiles for these outfits that look so organic, that look old, that look
Mhm.
sourced. And then a lot of the buttons were from Sweden. So I love that she kind of
Mm.
went out and didn't like make these things to look old, but she found old
She found actually old
textiles.
things, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
really cool.
I feel like that's a fun detail. And then of course we have Danny's May Queen flower dress and her crown at
Mhm.
the end. They were ultimately artificial silk flowers that we see in the end
Makes
product.
sense.
Yeah.
You're not gonna
Um
be able to keep continuity with
oh
real
my gosh.
flowers, and I imagine they shot that enough times
I
that
can't even imagine and how delicate flowers can be
yeah.
to a point too.
Within a
So
couple hours of that sunlight, they'd be wilted,
that's
like
true. Yeah, they would just oh, it would she would leave
dead.
like a little like snail trail behind
Yeah.
her of dead flowers.
A Danny trail,
Yeah, a little
yeah.
Danny trail. So of course Andrea credits like the team of people who would sew all these flowers in what had to be a hoop skirt ultimately because it ended up being so
Wow.
heavy. That's where
Mhm.
we kind of get that shape from. She said at
Interesting.
first though, they covered the skirt with leaves. I'm assuming fake leaves.
Hmm.
And then the
Mhm.
flowers one by one. And in the end, she said there were around 10,000 flowers that they put onto the dress. Which I'm like, those are
Wow.
all handmade silken
Oh my god, that's
flowers.
incredible.
And the fact that it was
Oh,
so heavy, they were like, "Okay, cool, we have to make something to hold
we have to
these
make
because"
supports,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, support beams for the flowers. And then
Ah.
she kinda jokes, kinda saying what we just said. She goes, "Of course, the first
Mhm.
idea was, oh, it would look so nice to make the whole dress and headdress from real flowers." But of course, it took
Mhm.
weeks and months to make these. And of course, you could not work with real flowers. So I tried to find the
Mhm.
best artificial flowers I could in Europe that looked the most real. And again, those were all handmade silken
Wow.
flowers. But I love that she was like,
Incredible.
she like wanted to so badly. She's like,
Mhm.
no, okay, that's gone. That's out
Film
the
worlds
window.
doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on to like I was talking about camera movements. This is where we kind of pull out a very early pin, kind of talking about
Mm.
these incredible camera movements that we see in this very like shining, but not, I would
Mhm.
say, at the same time. So, we obviously have the shot in the first half of the film where the group is first driving to Harga, and we get those
Mhm.
sweeping shots that kind of like flip upside down and go
Mhm.
around, which was all practically filmed with no edits. And I was shocked by
Wow.
that because obviously we know to achieve this, it must be a drone. And so the
Mhm.
cinematographer was asked, like, how did you get that shot? And he was like, honestly, we were just really fucking lucky to find a good drone operator in Hungary.
That's
And
huge.
huge. And he was told many times too for that shot specifically that it was impossible. They weren't going to be able
Mhm.
to do it, but he was like,
Wow.
I'm not taking no for an answer.
Yeah.
So I have a quote from him again talking about this. And he said, I kept doing research and found a way, which was basically a
Mm.
custom made drone with a gimbal head. I think it was a Ronin. And it could
Oh.
hold an Alexa Mini, which we've talked about on here. Then
Mhm.
you had to bypass the drone software to tell it to tilt more, and then the
Interesting.
software would normally allow. So he said he
Mhm.
asked the drone operators if they would try it for him, and they of course were reluctant because the drone is their baby, as he calls it. As
Mhm.
every drone operator, they will not. They're expensive. Why would you risk
Yeah,
your
you don't
equipment?
wanna damage it.
Yeah. So he says the first day we flew it, the drone died as it took off. Which I'm like,
Oh,
hello.
no.
Um,
Oh,
so we had to do the
no.
shoot again.
Could you
Um,
not check the battery
right?
on
I
this thing?
know.
Come
Honestly,
on.
again, where you could plan everything that you didn't check
Yeah.
the battery. So then he goes on. So we had to do the shot again on a day where there was a little bit of overcast, but it was the only day we had left to get the shot. It was very
Mhm.
windy, but the operators were able to keep the drone flying straight, which was quite impressive. I think we did it 4 or 5 times, and every time the drone operators were very nervous. And I was like, one more, we can do it better. And they would
Oh my
always be like,
god.
are you sure? I think we've got it. So he basically just like pushed for it. And that's where we get that really amazing like flip. I just that scene kind of
Wow.
like throws it's supposed to throw us the audience off because we're
Mhm.
entering this world. We kind of like our world flips as her world is flipping. And
Mhm.
I love that it was done practically. And
That's
I
really
don't think it's
cool.
appreciated for that because it could have just been edited. They could have just
Yeah, I
done
assumed it
it in
was.
post.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I appreciate that
Wow.
the cinematographer, he was like, I want to get this and please
It
everybody
needs to
trust
be
me.
real.
Yeah.
It,
um
reminded me a bit of, As Above, So Below.
yeah, absolutely.
The reversed imagery.
Oh, yeah, the upside down when they kick through
Mhm.
the,
Mhm.
little manhole.
Yeah.
Ooh, that
Get up into, like, the other
absolutely,
Paris. Yeah.
absolutely. Oh, that's a good, reference to that. That also I mean, that one really trips me out. I feel like
Mhm.
that image, that reveal at the end, is
Yeah.
so
That's
good.
there's a lot of ways to read that.
Mhm, mhm. I think it's funny though, because he says that drone shot, even though it sounds like so difficult, he said it was not the hardest shot from the whole film.
Oh.
It was actually a shot that doesn't even really make it into the end, that he calls the
Oh my
hardest.
god, I'd be
I know,
so
I
mad.
know. So he talks about it's when they're actually wheeling all the sacrifices to the yellow temple, the little hut at the end.
Mhm, mhm.
He says, I knew that shot was going to be very complicated, which you wouldn't think it was, but it's because he said the shot ended up being cut a little in the final movie and it actually
Mm.
went on for another 15 seconds. It was a very
Hmm.
intricate move. I think we used about 400 feet of dolly track with a 40-foot
Ooh.
crane and
Oh my
11-to-1
god.
zoom on the camera. It took grips 4 hours just to build the track and another hour to level it, which if you don't know,
Oh.
it's like a little train track.
Yeah.
And you do have to level it because if you're going, I mean, 400 fucking feet,
Oh
like
my
I can't,
god.
an hour
Outdoors
seems
too?
nice. I feel like it had to have
Yeah.
taken longer. So he was
Wow.
like, it kept sinking in the ground as the crane would travel on the track. So they had to
Oh
reinforce the leveling and it took
no.
4 hours to shoot. So he said that shot was crazy. So 4 hours to
Oh
build,
my
hour to
god.
level. They kept going over it. The crane, like the heavy equipment sinking it into the ground. So it took them 4 hours to shoot for it not even to make it. I mean, I would be
Oh my
devastated.
god. Yeah. Oh, that's
It I would be
brutal.
devastated. Yeah. So I
This
feel
is where
him
I'm like,
on
after all that
I know. It's
planning?
going in no matter what.
Yeah. Ari, I thought you said you came in prepared.
Right,
That's
right?
not really his fault,
Yeah.
but
Oh my god, I just like 400 feet of dolly track is like that just sounds insane to say
and
out
like
loud.
for a crane too. Like that's
And
not just a
out and
usual, yeah.
outdoors, yeah. So,
Oh my god.
bless him. Kind of moving into and then kind of rounding out, the film, I'm gonna talk about some specific scenes that I wanted to point out.
Mm,
So,
cool.
most notably, we have at the very end, we have the sex scene,
Mhm.
with Christian at the end. And so this is where we kind of pull out my pin of our actor talking about how many takes he likes to do.
Oh
Thankfully,
man. Oh god.
thankfully, he does not do that in this case.
Thank God, because
Thank
that would be
God.
very inappropriate. Like,
Very inappropriate. And honestly, reading this all and then getting to this point, I was like, oh, wipe the sweat
yeah,
off my brow.
indeed.
Yes. So he does not do that. He takes his Ari Aster away. Um, so weird to call it his Ari Aster away.
Yeah, there's mhm.
Yeah, so obviously we know that was I'm sure a really intense scene to film to begin with.
Yeah.
And he says, quote, I'm somebody who obviously likes to do a lot of takes because I don't get a
Mhm.
lot of coverage, but I had made an
Mm.
agreement with myself to not do any more than 3 takes for anything in the sex scene. So he really
That's
pared
a
down. I
good
think
rule.
he had a lot of cameras going at once, so he could kind of just like get what he needed Get the fuck
That's
out of
when I've
there.
shot sex scenes before, that's what I've done, just because like, you don't wanna make people do
Yeah.
that over and over
No.
again,
No.
like
As I mean, everyone is yeah, so actor, Jack Renner, who plays Christian in that, said he actually
Mhm,
spent time beforehand and during to boost the morale of the extras involved. Again, no one who spoke English. And then Isabel Grill. This was her
mhm.
first on-screen, like, feature appearance in a
Whoa,
film
that's
role.
intense.
And she's so
That
good in this too.
she's really, really good,
God
yeah.
damn it, she's terrifying in the best
Oh my
way.
god,
And at the
yeah,
end, you're like, "Oh my god, baby. I feel so bad for
she's
you."
very, like she's got a mesmerizing face
Man,
too, like
that's where, like, she like, the no iPhone face. Like, she's never seen an iPhone a day in her
mhm,
life.
mhm, indeed.
So he kind of went around trying to make sure, like, everyone felt good. He also says, quote, he was an advocate for as much as full frontal nudity as possible, as he kind of, like, wanted to embrace the feeling of being exposed and the humiliation, obviously, of the character. And he says that he felt really, really, really vulnerable, and that, he felt even more vulnerable than he anticipated at the time. And so
I'm glad that he was the one pushing
yes,
for it though.
yes.
That's good to hear, yeah.
Yeah, he I have a quote from him kind of talking about that. He says, quote, "You don't see that stuff happening to male actors in films very
Mhm,
much, although it's not
mhm,
pitched at the same level of violence. It does flip that dynamic on its head a little bit, and it
yeah,
was an opportunity for me to experience something like that as a male actor." So
mhm,
yeah, again, I'm like I just wish we had more body neutrality in media,
yeah,
period, where it wouldn't become this and I get it for art, some people want it as a shock value, but, like, I'm like, there's a way to
mhm.
have body neutrality,
Yeah,
and then you
bodies
can
can
film
just
it
be
but you
bodies,
can film it in a
yeah.
way that can be shocking depending, but I do feel
Mhm.
like I just want equality with
Yeah.
nudity on screens. I'm like, "Please." Especially coming from, like, male directors, which is a majority of
Yeah,
Hollywood.
indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ari Aster also talks about filming the scene, saying, quote, "A huge challenge for him was to find a way to be sensitive to everybody who's being exposed on the set while not being so sensitive that you're making them uncomfortable. It's something that's
Mhm,
totally alien to everybody, and everybody was extremely nervous. And so it was just about intuiting your way through that. So I like that
hmm.
he was willing to just be like, if it has to be this way because someone's uncomfortable, I'm happy
Yeah.
to maneuver. At least that's what I'm interpreting, and I'm hoping
Mhm. That's what it
that he
sounds
meant by
like.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Moving
Let's
on.
hope that was
Yeah.
accurate, but
Please. It seems like it was for the most part. The actor Jack Renner also talks about, like, how filming that scene post filming that scene and, like, after the movie came out, he was still very, like, that memory definitely, like I wouldn't say haunts him in, like, the wrong way, but he was just like, "That was a really intense thing, and I can't believe I did that, and it
yeah,
was, like, such an experience." He's like, "That will
I'm
never happen
sure.
again in that way."
Yeah.
I mean, that's an intense scene,
It in so many ways too, because it's
and
also like, we don't know what he's been given to drink or if he's sober and
I mean,
like
it is like, as much as I hate that character, like, he is being
yeah.
raped in that scene, like,
Yeah. No,
it's
he's
nothing
not able to
short of
consent to this situation.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is, like, wild where, it's such a there's so many things that one always kinda,
Mhm.
like, gets under my skin, which is exactly what it's supposed to do,
Yeah.
in that way, so yeah, moving on, we also have the drug scenes, we see a few of those, and we see kind of, I've never done hallucinogens, so, like, I have nothing to say neither here nor there, but the actors
It's
talk to each
pretty
other. Yeah,
accurate.
I'm like, I'm
It's
assuming,
yeah.
the
Yeah.
actors all talked to each other beforehand collectively about, like, doing
Mm.
mushrooms and, like, their experience, whether they did or did not do them, so
Mhm.
I think it was kind of cool they kind of came together collectively to talk about this. And then Ari Aster actually talks about how it was a really long process for them to do like trial and error of the exact nuance they wanted for the visuals. And so he says, quote, "There are some things we did in camera, but for the most part we did visual effects
Mhm.
in post. And I'm sure some of those shots we got to a point where we had 60 versions in one
Wow.
iteration, the tripping was too distracting and you're not paying attention to the characters. And then you
Mhm.
brought it down to the point where if you're paying attention to the characters, you'll never notice the tripping effects. He said, we settled
Mm.
on just a week before they screened the film. They kind of got everything in the
Wow.
right place to kind of hit. And I do think
Interesting.
they're perfectly subtle where you do kind of bounce, for me at least, I do bounce
Yeah.
between like watching the scene, and I'm like, "Oh," and then I'm back, and then
Mhm.
I'm like, "Ugh." So I think time well
That
spent
yeah,
getting
I
that.
think to me that is, like, in terms of the cinematography, the thing that this movie is most uniquely successful at is, like,
Mm,
it's hard to do a tripping scene in a way that does not now feel cheesy because we've seen so many of
sure.
them in
Yeah.
movies,
Yeah.
and, like, this one definitely there's a uniqueness to it.
Yeah,
Um
it's just so, it does, like, a weird yeah, it's balanced in a way where it does this weird mind trick to me where I'm like, I feel like I'm
Mhm.
tripping watching this as someone
Yeah.
who's never tripped before. So, I don't want to. I don't think I'd be Danny. I'd be, like, looking in the
You've
mirror and
got
then screaming and walking in the
Midsommar, you're
woods. Yeah, I
good.
am
Yeah.
so okay. My head is too dark for that. Moving on to music. I have a very interesting story about our composer. So we have composer
Ooh.
Bobby Krilich, who is a UK music producer and composer known by his stage name, the Haxon Cloak, which I think is a great.
Mm.
Have you heard of him?
I have! I didn't
Yes.
realize that's
Okay.
who did this! Oh, that's
Yes.
so
So that's why I was like,
interesting.
"Oh, fun, he's got a stage name." So if you guys are, like Siena with the Ahas, so he has done music for the TV series Beef, Snowpiercer, Paper Girls, The Blue Beetle, which I mentioned earlier. He also did Beau's Afraid and Eddington. So again,
Mm,
worked with Ari on those again. And
mhm.
then as a producer, he's worked with artists including Bjork, Father John Misty, and Troye Sivan. So a little bit all over the
I
place. And then he has 2 albums out as well of his own under his own name.
I will admit that I am unfortunately a Father John Misty stan,
Are
as
you I feel
embarrassing as
like
that may
I
be.
don't know
I
anything
love
about him,
him.
but that
Yeah.
feels like a good band, right?
Accurate?
Guy?
Yeah,
Band?
he's a
A guy
he's
with a band?
a character. Yeah, he's um, what a man. I've
Oh
seen
my
him
gosh,
live
funny.
many times, and the quality of the
Oh,
performances varies wildly from show to
really?
show.
Oh,
Yeah,
funny.
he's one of those where, like, sometimes he will give the best live show you have
Yeah.
ever goddamn seen, and sometimes he just kinda gets up on stage and just, like, falls to his knees and is like, "Ah!"
I kind
Like
of love that. That's just
yeah,
you're
it's
going
very
for the
you never know
ride.
what Father John Misty you're gonna get.
Actually really appreciate, and I'm sure the fans are just like, "Yeah, that's we love him for
Mhm.
that. That's why we go."
Yeah,
That's so cute.
you accept that you don't know how
Oh my
how good of
god.
or
I have to
terrible of a performance you're gonna get.
I have to
Yeah.
look I'm gonna look up, TikToks of him, live just to see
There's
how it
yeah,
varies.
um
Cute. That's funny. That's a little fun fact.
mm,
So yeah, so he's
yeah,
worked with, Father John Misty,
love it.
um,
Amazing.
on things, and then I kind of found his origin story really interesting of how he kind of went from music producing to getting into composing, right? Because we don't often see, I mean, we see obviously crossover, but typically I feel like people who compose soundtracks that we've talked about on this podcast specifically are people who are kind of
Mhm.
trying to go down that route.
Yeah. Yeah.
Versus kind of starting off on this kind of more like rock and roll lifestyle and then
Mhm.
transitioning. But it's a very rock and roll story. So in the early like mid 2010s, Bobby's manager received an email from Nine Inch Nails member Atticus Ross, which I love that
Ah,
Atticus Ross reached out to his manager
that's really cool.
saying, if you don't know Atticus Ross, he also worked with Trent Reznor a lot on films like Social
Mhm.
Network, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, HBO
Mhm.
series Watchmen. So that's where we're seeing this kind of lead in. And so following that email, Bobby like went immediately on a plane to LA. It was his first time in the United States, and he kind of like
Oh.
started his career. And he said when he got there, everything went really well. They kind of hit it off. And he said, "quote I played him some music, and he played me some of his music, and then we got a
Oh my
little bit
god.
serious." And he turned around and he was like, "So, what do you want to do with your life?" And kind of the rest was history. He was like,
That's so
"Here's what
cute.
I want." And I love when someone
Wow.
super famous and established like that reaches out and it's like,
Yeah.
I see something here. I
Oh
see
my
I
god,
see
that's
potential,
really
like,
cool.
do you want to do this? And Bobby was like, hell
Mhm.
yeah, I want to do this. So fast forward 2018 and early 2019, Bobby talks about working on writing the music for Midsommar, and
Mhm.
where he said Ari and he developed kind of like a shorthand very quickly when writing the music,
Mm.
and that Ari actually really valued their collaboration together. And he actually said Ari Aster with him was very generous with him very early on. He would send him
Mhm.
production design ideas and ask what he thought
Oh,
about them.
cool.
He asked for his opinions on certain lines of dialogue for the script, and he was very much like,
Hmm.
they kind of have this rapport and this
That's
connection
cute.
beyond
That's really
music.
cute.
And so, cinematographer we talked about earlier, Pavel, he kind of talked about how Ari usually knew what music, of course, he was going to what the music was going to be before they would even shoot, saying, quote, "For Hereditary and Midsommar, we even had some tracks from the composers beforehand. It's really wonderful to have an
Mhm.
idea of what kind of world the audio is going to live in so that you can let the audio
Mhm.
take over certain points and other points can take over for more like cinematic and dramatic lighting." And so he kind of talks about how they
Mhm.
played together, and that was really nice for him.
Mm.
And so they kind of talked about the music a lot in pre-production. So just to give an idea of how him and Bobby
That's
were
cool.
working together early enough on to then hand this information over to the
Which we love.
cinematographer, which is so fun.
That's
Um,
always yeah,
yeah,
always the
it's
best scores when that's possible.
yeah, I can only imagine too, like that's gotta be so fun to have beforehand. Fun and daunting
Mhm.
at the same time, because then you feel like
Yeah.
you're tied to this thing versus I don't know, I feel like that could either be really nice or really hard depending on
Mhm.
how your brain wants to work
Yeah,
in
I feel
that
like
creative
probably really
space.
good for a filmmaker like Ari Aster who,
Yeah.
like, wants to come in with a plan and stick to it and not
Uh-huh.
abandon the plan no matter
Yeah.
what.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Or an actor, I
probably
feel like
works
it's
really
gotta be
well for
great.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it makes sense that composer Bobby said that the bulk of the score was written pretty quickly for the two of them. And then kind of talked about working with Ari that as much as like they'd be sitting there like watching things or not watching things, but talking over the script. And
Mhm.
Ari would be like, when Danny's eyes move this way, I want this dramatic noise. And when she looks this way, I
Mhm.
want something. So he was very much like, again, as we
Very
know,
specific.
very
Wow. Yeah.
specific. He goes, that's what I mean when I say there are a lot of sound designs that might go unnoticed in Midsommar, because literally
Mm.
every twist and turn there's every twist and turn we had to score to. We worked really hard
Mhm.
on accentuating all of those things. It was difficult because it's not the way I've ever really worked before and that kind of
Mhm.
intensity, but I think it made it for a really incredible experience. So I can only imagine kind of coming in, not having done this, and then like Ari fucking Aster is the person you have to work
That
with
yeah.
for
And that's, like,
this.
very not representative of the way scoring a movie
Oh,
usually
no, no, no. Yeah, I
goes.
wanna I wanna point out, but I have a fun little, I found a tidbit for you, Sienna, specifically.
Yes.
So Bobby talks about how that Ari would kind of come over to his house where they would score a lot of the music or write a lot of the
Cute.
music, and he'd be on piano playing, and Ari Aster would be like sitting next to him for up to like 10 hours a day. They'd be like sitting there like
That's
noodling
really
on piano,
cute.
and they recall their experience of working together like this. It refers to a video, which we will link, of Badalamenti talking about how he wrote Laura Palmer's theme to Twin Peaks, and
Oh.
saying how he Badalamenti described David Lynch sitting next to him, being like, "You're killing me, Angelo. You're killing me." And so they used to sit there and kind of joke about this clip of Badalamenti talking about David Lynch and their collaboration, saying, "Quote, I'd be playing the piano and Ari would be behind me, just like, okay, great, great. Now you need to take me here. Now I'm there. Now I need to go here." And then just gesticulate. We would both just
Mhm.
laugh. And then it was an electric process and it was wonderful. But I thought you would enjoy this kind of imagery of them making fun of themselves in this moment.
"You're
Specifically Ari
killing
making
me,
fun of
Ari.
himself.
You're
Yeah,
killing
yeah.
me."
He's just
Yeah.
like he's like, I get it, but it's 10 hours in every day this week. What are you doing? So I feel like that gives a lot of insight of like what's their relationship, and I can understand why Ari was probably sending Bobby a bunch of things because they just spent so much
Mhm.
time together in this like very intimate setting, talking about all these emotions that have to be expressed through the film. So we are rounding the corner. This is one of my longer segments. We are quickly going
I
to
love it.
note the MPAA rating. So it was a
Question. I'm so
yes.
sorry. Do we know the budget of this film?
We do. Oh, did we
Okay.
not talk
Oh,
about it? Oh my
did I
god.
miss it?
Oh
I
my
don't
god,
think
I
I
might
heard
have
it.
breezed over the but we'll get to it because
Oh
we're
my
doing box
god.
office.
Okay, great.
Oh my
Fabulous.
god,
That's
that's
what I
maybe
was
the
thinking.
first
I was
time
like,
I've ever and I have a note about it. Okay, we'll get to
"Oh
that
my
when we get
god.
to box
Amazing.
office. I'll loop it
Fabulous."
together. Sorry,
Fabulous.
everyone. I'm so organized most of the time. I had a chunk on the budget too. So, okay.
Oh my god.
Rating of this really quickly, and then we'll absolutely thank you for noting that. I would have
No.
been really upset.
I have a guess, and I'm curious if I'm anywhere in the right
Yeah.
area.
Okay.
So,
Oh
yeah.
my God. I would have been actually really upset if I forgot to say that. So I'm so happy. Who else was yelling with Siena? Of like, wait a second. So before we get there, just like a fun fact about the rating, there was a 6 week
Mhm.
debate of whether the film would receive the dreaded NC-17 or an R rating in the US because of the nudity.
Oh.
But they were able to cut it down and get it to a point where it
Mhm.
got an R. I
Mhm.
I feel like the MPAA was generous. I think it should have
Yeah,
gotten an
they got away with a
NC-17. A
lot.
lot. Yeah,
I mean,
I
especially, like, it's so funny to me that, again, we're talking about the nudity when, like, we see a human head bashed against a cliff. Like, we see a
yeah.
blood eagle. Like, there's so much gore in this film. Like,
It's
realistic gore,
yeah,
too.
yeah. Him
Broad daylight realistic gore,
it
and we're
was
like, "Oh, no,
broad
there's a
daylight gore.
penis." Like
The penis alone, I'm surprised they were like, "That's not
yeah.
happening here.
Usually that's the line,
That's
is
not
like, "If you
happening
see a
here."
penis,
Yeah,
it's
in
not
a
happening here."
non-comedic way
Yeah.
too. Like,
Yeah.
forgetting Sarah
Yeah.
Marshall, obviously we get penis,
Exactly.
but it's funny
Yeah.
penis, so it doesn't count,
Penis
you
is
know?
usually only allowed to be
To be
funny
fair, it's
on
only
screen,
silly
actually.
on
Yeah,
screen,
that's
so no, but I am
new soundbite.
no! Let me get a budget. We're going back to budget. From butts to budget. So
Oh my god.
going back up.
Okay, that's a shirt. What do we
From
cover?
butts
From
to
butts to
budget.
budget.
Truly. Okay, budget. Guesses? Class?
Um,
Anybody? Shout out.
between 19 and 20.
No. You're gonna love or hate this.
Ooh.
Less.
Oh, it's because it's in, what was it,
Well,
Romania?
yeah.
No, not
Budapest.
Romania.
Budapest.
Budapest, yeah, Hungary.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, so cheaper. Was it, like, 9?
Yes, on the dot. It was 9.
Oh my god. For some
Which
reason, I was like, "I know there's a 9 in
yeah,
there
yeah.
somewhere." It's the
Okay.
sacred number.
Oh my God, shut the fuck up. It is the sacred number.
It's the number of days that Odin
God
was
damn
hanging.
it.
Whatever.
Truly.
I don't even remember if it was
No,
Odin, but
that was right.
somebody
Yeah, he was
hung
upside
for
down.
some amount of time. Yeah, great. Fabulous.
I found this interesting. So this was the fact that I don't know how I
Oh
glossed over
my
this.
god.
Uh, Again, in a very what I wouldn't assume Ari Aster way. So obviously,
Mhm.
when Hereditary came out just the year prior, it became at the time A24's highest grossing film worldwide, and that was a
Wow.
$10 million budget. And I'm shocked that he then
That
did
was
a
more than
9 by
this?
a and that grossed 80 million, just for context. Yeah, I'm shocked he didn't take more just to take it.
Yeah. Well, and I think, like, part of where my guess was coming from was, like, thinking about the budget jump that Jordan Peele made going from Get Out to Us. Us was, like, around 19 or 20
Yeah,
mil, and then
yeah,
Nope was, like, 80 mil, and I was like,
yeah,
I feel like I feel like Jordan Peele and Ari Aster get brought up in the same conversations a lot.
yeah, yeah.
And so it was, like, somewhere in that
I would
vicinity.
expect him to try, like, even
Yeah.
if it was like a budget in his pockets, like money in his
Indeed.
pockets, he takes it.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially being deemed like A24's highest gross. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
what other. I can't in context. I realize I should have brought like what other films it had surpassed at that time, but like to get that label and then to like take a mil less. I
That's
appreciate and did not expect it from him. And then, do you want to take a stab at the box office gross
oh,
for
man.
this? I know
Did
I kind of
you
didn't know what to. I didn't know what to think actually for the
am I
box office because I couldn't remember.
remembering? I feel like you say that Hereditary did 80 mil? Is that
It
right?
did, yes, 80
Okay.
mil.
100?
No,
Oh
it
my god, did
did
it do worse?
worse
Oh,
by
that's
a lot.
fascinating.
Um,
Wow.
48.5
Oh my
million.
god. I mean, that's
I
still like it made a
know.
good profit. Like it's fine.
I mean, it did.
Um
It grossed. I mean, at least like what? Like if marketing wasn't in there, whatever. Like it's at least
yeah.
like 35 fucking million
But
dollars.
man, they must have been
Back.
disappointed though.
Yeah, so I am and I'm
Interesting.
not surprised. So some of the like critiques we get, among other things, are like obviously it was a slow burn, it was daylight, full
Mhm.
core, in
It's also
contrast to
long. Like
long is the big critique
yeah.
too. Director's cut longer, apparently.
Oh
Like,
my
people didn't like the
god.
length. People thought also, like, after going and seeing Hereditary, like, a year before, right? And then
Mhm.
and that one's, like, so relentless, and it's so shocking, and it's so it's just such a drastically different movie, and to have this kind of that be his first, and then go to this, which is so just the opposite, truly.
Mhm.
And I feel like a lot of people, even with the movies he's had as of late, I feel like people always like to be like, "Do you like Hereditary or do you like
Mhm.
Midsommar?" And people,
Yeah.
I feel like I hear that a lot, and
There's
I
like two
think,
camps, I feel
yeah,
like.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I'm in
So
neither of them, but
yeah, 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 but I do find it, like, interesting, so I'm, like, not severely surprised. I didn't think it
Mhm.
did better than Hereditary because, like, notoriously people always talk about that movie.
That's true.
Um,
This is very
but,
true.
yeah, so, I do have, like, our little critics as we're rounding out, so it does have a
Mhm.
7.1 out of 10 on IMDb. It has a 83% from critics, a 63% from audiences on Rotten Tomatoes. So I
Oh my
feel
god, that
like
makes me
you'll
so
be, yeah, yeah,
happy.
yeah. I'm like, you're in company, and I have something for you at the very end. I have a treat.
I love
We do
this.
have some Letterbox reviews that I do think are hilarious. I love everybody on Letterbox. So it does have a 3.7 on Letterboxd. So I have 4 reviews that I brought in that are very fun. We
Mhm.
have the best version of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory since 1971.
Yeah, that's it
Yep.
very much the same plot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We have I am so glad Ari Aster clearly never went to therapy, which is a both an insult, and I am also glad he never went to therapy and used this as his form. So I got this
Oh my
movie.
god.
We
Mhm.
have Ari Aster said, "Yeah, grief is awful, but you know what's worse? White men."
Did he though?
I know. Listen, it's a review.
I'll keep it to
One white
myself. I'll
man.
keep it to
One white
myself.
man.
Get through it,
Um
Sienna. You're gonna be okay.
And then no, I promise I have something for you. And then the last review I have from Letterbox is, "Babe, you okay? You've barely touched your pubic hair pie," which I love. And
That's great.
then before I give something for you, I'm giving something for myself and all of us who do
Great.
love this movie. I have a Jordan Peele quote because he praised
They're
Midsommar and
friends, right?
Fangoria. I don't
Am I
know.
remembering that? I feel like they like
Maybe.
there's some
I
sort of a
believe.
connection.
They're
Yeah.
like they're in a director's camp together of a genre
Indeed.
of directors and writers.
Mhm.
So he said, quote, "After it ended, I found myself looking back at the final act going, holy shit, that was some of the most atrociously disturbing imagery I've ever seen on film. Anything after Midsommar is going to have to contend with it. I mean, it usurps," which I'm like, I fucking hate that word. "It usurps The Wicker Man as the most iconic pagan movie to be
Oh, how
referenced." I
dare
know! I said this
you.
one's for me. That's for me. That's my only review I brought in. But for those of you who feel like Siena, I actually read a review from this website called lareviewbooks.org, which is like a
Mm.
random site, I feel like, for this to be on. Um, by a writer called Scout Tafoya. And I actually got pretty deep in this review before I realized it was not agreeing with my viewpoints. And I
Oh,
thought that is a sign of
interesting.
a very well written review from a different
Yeah.
perspective. And so
Okay.
it's a breakdown kind of this genre film and like elevated horror and kind of how it's aiming to get good critical reviews rather than have substance. So I brought that
If
in for
you're
you. It's
only
a
listening and not watching, I'm rolling up my
roll of
sleeves for
sleeves.
this.
So the name of the article, which it's beefy, it's a good one.
Mhm.
I wanted to bring in quotes, but there's too many. It's called, which the title's great, "Passion of the Zeitgeist: Judging the Relative of Elevation of Midsommar" by Scout Tafoya. So
Oh, I gotta
it's
read
great.
this.
Again, I had to read a bunch of it before I was like, wait a second, we don't agree. But I appreciate as we bring in reviews
Mhm.
and critic reviews. It's a great one. So I would highly encourage to read it no matter what. I think it's always nice to see things from different perspectives, whether
Yeah.
you agree or disagree. So that is your little gift I
Oh my
give
god, I
to
love
you.
that.
Is
Thank
that is like
you.
the only critique that I brought in, or critic
That
review
is
I brought in, was that
so
one.
beyond fair.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that you brought
So
in one.
there you go. Yes, just
Um,
one, and it's a technically a negative one, but I think it's a really interesting conversation about elevated horror and what it really means, and like especially that like there was a time when these movies were coming out where that is a big um like big term that was getting
Yeah, we
thrown
were
at
saying
movies
that
like
a
this.
lot. Yeah. Or
A
like the culture
lot,
was
too
saying that a
much, too
lot. Too much
much.
indeed. I
Yeah,
brought in a
so
couple of compliments for the film as a gift to you.
oh my
Or
goodness.
like I guess not even compliments, but
As
like
if I made the film.
observations that I liked.
Sure,
Um
sure.
One, I think this one's very obvious, but the May Queen photos clear connection between our films, where there's like the series of
Mm,
photos, and where there's one missing, and there's a clue
yeah,
hidden in the identity of the missing photo. I also noticed, okay, I love the painting that the film opens with. I love the way that it uses visual
so
artwork,
beautiful.
and
Mhm.
the fact that it opens with that image of like the moon and the sun, right? And that's the
Mhm,
moon is
mhm,
painted all in blue, and all of the costumes are in blue and white,
mhm.
and I realized that all of the villagers who are marked for sacrifice are wearing all blue. Like they're wearing costumes that are
Oh,
dyed blue. They sit on
yeah,
blue
yeah.
chairs. They get carried out in those blue chairs. And so like blue is associated with death throughout the movie, but all of them are
Mhm.
wearing costumes that even the white ones are embroidered with blue. So there's like this kind of like
Yeah.
through line in the clothing of like death will come for all of us, kind of, which
Yeah.
just like some good
Oh, I
costume
love that.
narration that I wanted to compliment. Because like again,
Yeah.
I think this movie is
Snaps for costume designer.
extremely, yeah, it's very careful about the things that it's careful about.
Yeah.
Which okay, now I get to rant about this. Listen, I've been pulling my punches this entire time, and I okay. So first of all, can we talk about Connie? What happens to Connie? Why
Listen.
does the only woman of color in this entire
Oh,
movie,
yeah, no, they
her
threw
storyline
away
gets completely abandoned? And I
and
know
she's
that,
so good.
and she's
We
so
love
good.
Connie.
And I know that apparently, because I looked this up after I went out of the theater watching it the first time, I was like, "What the fuck did you
Mhm.
do to my girl Connie?" Um,
Yeah, we really get
Apparently,
no resolution on
there's
her.
no, yeah, we don't even get a shot of her body in close up where you can recognize her at the end.
Mm,
You see her very briefly on this scan across the room. Every single other
yeah.
person, we get this like very clear narrative of here's the thing they did wrong, here's the sacrifice that fits the punishment, or the punishment that fits the
Mhm.
crime. Connie is just like, well, I don't know, she was a woman of
'Cause they
color.
'cause she
Eh,
didn't do anything
yeah, she
wrong, that's
didn't do anything
why.
wrong. Um
They should've just let her free.
and like apparently she gets drowned and we don't see it, and there's like a tiny
Mm,
little bit of it that like
weird.
there's like a hint to it in
Drowned.
the director's cut, but it's just like they literally didn't care about her, and they were so
Yeah.
just like they decided so firmly that they didn't care about her that they were like, nobody's even
The
going to
focus.
matter. It's not going to matter to
Mm,
anybody that this line doesn't get
sure.
tied up in this movie, where again, even the details of the hand embroidery on the costumes is important, but the life of a woman of color is not. I
Sh
wonder
I
why.
mean,
Um,
like I said, the focus
yeah,
is very much like, this is what I want to focus on, and I
yeah.
do agree that whether intended or not,
The
as a
way,
filmmaker
yeah.
with art, yeah, it should have just been
y-
so. Because yeah, you're right, she totally I hate to be like, I love her too, and she really
She's
just, like
incredible and she's
she's just gone.
charismatic, and we like we
She's just
learn
gone.
as much about her when she's alive as we do about all of the men. But as soon
Yeah.
as she's dead, her body is treated very differently. And that's actually
Mhm.
the center of my problem with the film as a whole, is it treats the bodies of the people of color very differently. And if that is a commentary,
Mm.
it's not one that I think is successful, because it's not the message that most people took away from the film. Example,
No,
like
no.
um okay, what happens to my boy Josh? Our Chidi character.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
so sorry that I'm forgetting the actor's name. That's terrible. Oh my gosh,
William,
William
he's the one
Jackson
William
Harper. That's it.
yeah,
Um,
Harper. I was like, I almost said Parker.
so he's the first one to die. Black man dies first, or first man to die on camera specifically, apart from like those two
Yeah.
white guys, like the first character that we get to know and love who's like in our core horror group. So it falls into that
Mhm.
trope. He gets attacked on camera, which we don't see for any of the others. Every single other person in that core group is attacked off camera
You're
except for Josh.
right.
The darkest skinned man of color gets attacked on
Oh,
camera.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and we're in
Yeah.
his point of view as he gets attacked, in fact, so it like makes it all the more graphic the way his body is treated. And then
Yeah.
where do we see his body? He ends up with his foot buried in the ground coming up. But what did we see right before that? We saw the shot of them digging a hole in the ground, pouring the seeds in, and then putting a slab of meat in the ground. So the only other shot we've seen of a hole in the ground with something sticking out of it is a slab of meat. There's like a visual comparison being drawn between Black Man and slab of meat. I'm not saying that's intentional on the
Yeah.
filmmaker's part, but it happened.
I was gonna say, yeah, no. I mean, here's the thing. It's like whether intent or not,
It's
art is gonna
there.
be
Yeah.
it's out there,
Yeah.
right? And so that is, I mean, yeah, it's pretty. What are you gonna? It's
Yeah.
white male directors aren't, and it's not an excuse because there's
Right.
no excuse. We live in a world where we all live in the same world,
There's
and
an
we all have access to
opportunity
the
to
same
learn.
information.
Yeah. And it's like,
Yeah.
it it's also like, I know that I think probably the response would be like, oh, it's supposed to be a critique of the white supremacy of this group. To which I say, if you want something to be a critique, you have to shoot it in a way that is criticizing rather than engaging in the thing.
I would also
Um,
say, like, I didn't come across any articles of him talking about that, and even in, like, what I brought in, it was, like, clearly just a breakup movie, and I don't know if that
right.
was if that was commentary he was trying to make. I agree that that was he
It's
should have
not what
not.
came
Just don't do
across.
it.
Yeah.
Just don't do it if
Yeah.
it's just a break. Like, don't have that in there
Yeah.
then
If it's just a
as
breakup
a, like,
movie,
throwaway.
then
Make it just a
yeah.
breakup movie
And
in
like,
that way.
think
I agree.
how
I totally agree with that.
And, like, I would
Absolutely.
feel very different about this movie if either that were addressed or if it were an
Mm,
entirely group of white people who got brought in. It's the fact that it's like they've
agree.
specifically
Agree.
drawn in a group and they have selected the white man who looks like them to be like the
Mhm.
boner donator, for lack
Yeah,
of a better way
yeah,
of putting it.
yeah.
And they've
Yeah.
like, we can all agree, I think, that there is a reason that Bonnie dies off before she has a chance to participate in the May Queen contest, because she's never got a chance of being May Queen. She's never going to be.
Mm,
They do not want her to be. They want somebody who looks like Florence Pugh, because in order for this narrative of it being a fairy tale to work, it has to be somebody who can, as Ari Aster says, fit into the family, who can feel that this is a family that you're
right.
returning to.
Right.
And
Yeah.
if he's saying we are associating with her point of view and this to her is a fairy tale, how can it possibly be framing it as a critique when we all agree it's a good for her happy ending? How is it a good
Right.
for her
Right.
happy ending if it's also saying, oh, this is a critique of white supremacy? Like, it's one or the other.
I'm actually, yeah, I have to say maybe the way, because I feel like when we do this research too, like I'm going in it looking for the things that I'm trying to look for to tell
Hmm.
my making up,
No, of
right?
course. And same,
I'm
like, I'm looking for
curious
the things that
if
support my view, but like,
yeah, no, but now it like opens up, like I'm curious if like anyone listening, or now I want to like look and see if there are like if is does he, because I agree with you, like if filmmakers go into a film and like all the research that I did, at least like in the brief
and you
time that
did a
I
lot of
do research,
research. You brought a lot
but
in.
I didn't find anything about that. And I
Hmm.
do find that interesting in all of these conversations with all of these quotes, like the fact that, those things are so on screen and put out there. And if they're not being like, if they're being addressed is one thing, even if it's like,
Exactly.
okay, this is wrong,
Right.
but
But like,
this is what they were trying to do. But if you weren't
I'm not here
trying,
trying to be like white filmmakers can only tell stories about exclusively white groups of people, but I am saying, like, if you were a white filmmaker trying to make a critique of white supremacy, you need to think about the way you're using your camera. Like,
I don't see that that was the film he was trying to make, but I'm
right.
saying that as an agreement with you
Indeed. And like, yeah,
on
I
that.
don't think
Yeah.
that's what he was trying to do. I don't think that was his goal. And
Yeah.
given that, I'm like, that's pretty dicey
That makes it all
imagery
the
to be
worse.
playing with.
That makes
Yeah.
it all, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying, like, why are
Don't do
we, and
that.
it's not
Yeah.
that hard to be like 1 + 1 = 2. What are we
Exactly.
doing?
Exactly. And it's also
Like, it's not
like,
that hard. That's actually the most
it's really
like,
not.
I like, no, truly no pun intended, it's the most black and white fucking thing of like,
Yeah. Yeah.
hello and hi.
Exactly.
What are we?
Again, like, they
So
are blindingly white. They are so white
I
they are
have
walking
zero
bounce
disagreements with you
boards.
there. Zero
um
disagreements with you there.
Well, and I was
So
like, I was doing a mental like exercise with myself this time watching, where I was like,
sure.
how would this feel different if Will Poulter got bludgeoned to death on camera? It
Mhm,
would feel
mhm,
very
mhm.
different. But we don't see that
Yeah.
happen. And like, it's hard for me to imagine that happening. Or
Yeah.
if like, we see the oh my God, what is it? something stupa, the two who commit suicide,
Oh,
ritual suicide.
Attenstupa,
Yeah,
I
something
think
like
it's
that.
called
Atastupa. We
Attenstupa.
see like a brief close up of their face after they've died, and then like it goes out of focus. Whereas
Mhm,
when we
mhm.
see Archie's body with the blood eagle, we get this long lingering shot that goes over every single detail of his body,
Yeah.
and he's still alive. Whereas
That's why it's, like, the worst. That's, like,
mhm,
the worst imagery in that
it
whole,
is.
I love it because it's
It's
disgusting and it's my
disgusting,
favorite,
but it's
but
like also think
it's the
about
worst.
like we get two people who jump off the cliff and the guy survives and we don't get like a close up of his agonized face or the camera crawling over his
Mhm,
body. We get one brief shot of his broken leg and then we get the reactions of the people around.
mhm,
That's not
mhm.
how Archie is shot. In
Yeah,
Archie's
yeah.
case, like his destroyed body becomes like a sight of spectacle and that is
Mm.
intentional. Um
Yeah, I agree that if that was again, I find it interesting that you bring that up in this way because, again, looking at this, you think it would have like come up very heavily focused
right.
on,
Right.
and it's not what I read. And I think that in itself
That
kind of
says
shows
something.
the
Yeah.
insensitive or
Just
lack
like
of
unintentional
care.
or yeah,
Yeah,
whether it's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
unintentional or
So
like poorly executed intentions, either way, like I don't really care. Like it's the
well, then I feel
result
like
is the result.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel like that should have been that should have been the main conversation, not like I went through a breakup and
Right.
here's my thing. Cause
Right.
like that's, I think that's also very like that makes sense. That makes
Yeah,
sense. And I'm
absolutely.
not in disagreement and it does make me have to kind of sit there and go, oh, yeah. And that's also like my as a white person, like I have to then be more you know what I mean? Like that is something to be conscious of and not be like, oh, I was just looking at it as a breakup movie. Cause that is how I take it because that's what the movie does for me. And right,
It's yeah, it's a yes and. Like both of
acknowledging.
these are like
Yeah.
very supportable views from the text. And like
Yeah.
the
However, white male directors in Hollywood, like people in power, people who are getting their stories out among masses, I do feel like as like artists,
we have
we
a responsibility.
we have a responsibility, and I
Yeah.
think that's like a great reminder of like just because this is your focus or this is your whatever, also look at it from all the people that might
Yeah.
view it and like just know that they might view it this way.
Exactly.
Just
And like
know that that might happen as we
yeah.
do when we put art out. It's like, okay, cool, this can be perceived this many ways, and then at the very least address it. And so I'm very curious to see if he has
Me
talked
too.
about
Yeah,
it,
like
or
is there
I
an
want to
interview
look
out
now. So
there? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But and like the last complaint that I'll raise, I promise it is the last one, but it's a big one because
I say critique
it
versus complaint.
yeah, it's a critique. And like it this also I want to be fair is like very much what shaped my viewing experience when I first went in is that those first 5 minutes, like as somebody who has had loved ones commit suicide,
Hmm,
seeing
hmm.
the way that that is depicted and hearing like, oh yeah, she's bipolar. I'm like, okay, but that's like the likelihood of a woman with bipolar disorder, which like is not something that I
Hmm,
personally have, but is something that I love a lot of people who do. Um,
hmm,
the
hmm.
likelihood of somebody with bipolar disorder who's going through a mental crisis, who's female also, then going on to commit an act of family annihilation is so inconceivably low. Like
Yeah,
female
sure,
family
sure.
annihilators to begin with are really uncommon. And like I looked this up because I was so curious about it. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
am I
yeah.
correct? Like when does this happen? When there are cases of female annihilators, it's almost always mothers killing their children. Almost always. Like
Yeah, no, that makes
it
absolutely makes
makes sense
sense.
on like a psychological level. Like it's usually
Mhm,
a lot of the
mhm,
time when it happens, it's like when there's a custody battle going on and there's a woman who wants
mm.
to keep control over her children and it's like I would rather have my children die than have them be yours. Um
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
that is very different than a woman who is going through a mental health crisis and just inexplicably decides to kill her whole family.
Sure.
Like
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like I would understand it
No.
more if he did not name a specific mental health
D
condition at all.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
just
yeah,
don't
yeah.
tell us that it's bipolar disorder and let us fill in
Yeah,
the blanks, but naming it a specific thing
absolutely,
is like, then you have a
absolutely.
responsibility to get that thing right, and you didn't. Um,
Especially when it's like that's the catalyst that
yeah,
sends us
that
onto
sends
this
all
thing.
of this
No, I mean,
starting.
absolutely, and that's where, like, again, not an excuse, but like male directors
Yeah.
just again, you're creating art, you're creating this thing. I want to say that article that I recommended to you touches on a lot of like
Ooh.
this is where not like that specifically, but
Mhm.
like as again, this was like a week ago I read this article, so I have to refresh, but
Mhm.
kind of touching about like essentially, this elevated horror, I
Yeah.
say in quotes, of like I'm gonna be edgy by being like
Mhm.
it's bipolar and this is
Right.
what that is, and it's just like hello,
Yeah, it's like
are we living in the same reality of like what's fact and what's like what is like, because to your point they could have just left it as like
yeah.
she was going through something, it was vague, like,
Right.
we could have just gotten the pings of emails, we didn't have to
Mhm.
read anything that was in which I don't even really think we see, we just see Danny, I
We
think,
She sends
like,
like a message
responses.
that says I like paused it so that I could read it because I'm that bitch.
Did you?
And she says
No, no,
she
no.
says something
That's what we all
like
do.
the world's all dark now. I'm taking mom and dad with me. Um
Mhm.
which
And
I'm
they could have just left it at
That would have
that
been
and just been like,
fine. That would have
"Great."
been
Yeah,
more
yeah,
than
yeah,
enough. I'd
yeah,
be on board.
yeah.
And like because that's the very
Sure.
beginning, it soured me towards the movie and then I like carried this anger in towards it that like it was
Yeah.
still
But that's your lived experience, and so that's, like, you're not alone in
yeah.
that. You know what I mean? That's why I say it's like a critique versus because I feel like calling it like complaining is not giving like
I
you
appreciate
have a
that.
right to feel a critique towards it because you're
And
not alone.
and
There's articles
also
written about it, and I get it.
and at the same time, I really want to be clear that that's not me saying like anybody who likes this is bad or wrong or like there's so much to
Well, you're
love about
talking to
this
me, so
movie.
obviously, I hope that you don't think I'm bad
Well,
and wrong.
and that's part of why I want to name it is like if you're a
Yeah,
listener
yeah,
who's
yeah,
like, but
yeah.
Sienna, I love this movie. Like there's a lot to love about it. And I don't
Uh-huh.
want any of these
I
things to
love
feel
it,
like
and I
you
also
should
agree with you.
yeah. And also like you can
I,
disagree with me and it doesn't
yeah,
like
yeah.
neither of us
Uh-huh.
have to be wrong. It's just
Uh-huh.
like different
Yeah.
experiences.
Absolutely. And yeah, I appreciate those because I think that's what's fun again about like bringing these movies on here, talking to each other about these perspectives. Like
Yeah,
you can also like, again, it's the whole conversation of like separating art versus artist or,
totally.
like
Totally.
even like I appreciate this movie for this, but I also can, we all of us, we
Yeah,
watch horror. We all watch movies that are so wildly inappropriate appropriate that we look back at,
absolutely.
I mean, like sometimes I watch things, I'm like, Jesus Christ, but we still
Yeah,
love them because we can acknowledge
abs-
those things. So I think this is a
yeah.
great example of like that just being this being a modern film and us doing the same
100%.
thing,
I think it's
you know?
like the one that it's making me think a lot about is Sleepaway Camp when we covered that, where it's like that movie is
Yes.
transphobic
I just
as
watched
fuck.
I just watched 1, 2,
Oh my
and
god.
3 and the 2000s one the other
Amazing.
day. But
Ugh,
yeah, that's exactly it. It's like it's newer, so we don't want to do that. But I
right.
think we absolutely can
Yeah, and like
do that and acknowledge
I
that.
had a great time watching Sleepaway Camp. And like
Mhm.
I brought in quotes from trans artists who were like I was very influenced by
Uh-huh.
this.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
And we can acknowledge that it's
yeah. And
transphobic. Like, I think we can
absolutely.
talk about all the
Absolutely.
things about this film that are great and also be like, here are some things that are not great.
Yeah. Yeah, because
um,
horror we really just
well,
splattering on the wall there
yeah,
sometimes. And
splicing and
sometimes you're like,
splattering.
a little bit too much there, buddy. But yeah, I think I appreciate you being able to talk about it and like us for this to come in to be like, we can and also this.
Yeah,
And
there
we
can
can
be
like
space
this
for
bit, but we can
both.
also not.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think you were too harsh
I
at
appreciate
all,
it.
and I liked diving in because it,
Yeah.
some aspects of him, I'm curious. I don't have feelings on him yet, but I do really like this movie.
And I do feel like I came away
You know,
with more complicated, nuanced feelings from what you brought in than
yeah,
I went in with. So, should we take a break, burn some wicker, and be right back?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. We'll be
We'll
right
be right
back.
back.
And
And
we're
we're back.
back. Okay, now you have to tell me you hated it, didn't you?
No. Okay, well, let me hold on. That was such I was like,
I'm
joke's
on
on
an
you.
emotional roller coaster here,
Okay,
Al.
so yeah, I I could have done without the songs.
Oh
I
my
know. Is
god.
that a controversial take? I don't know what to say.
Oh my
Well,
god.
here's my also thing. So part 1 could have done without the songs, would have been perfect.
Mhm.
2, you told me to watch everyone told us to watch the director's cut, I should
Mhm.
say.
Mhm. Mhm.
I wanted to watch it on my TV and I was too lazy to plug in, so I actually watched the cut everyone hates, but I'm excited about that because I did like look up the what was
The
the
missing
difference.
scene. Yeah.
Yes. And I do fully agree with everybody. Um
It makes a
on
big
the director's
difference.
cut, and I'm actually
It makes a
glad that I
big, big
watched it
difference.
so that I know the
Yeah.
difference.
No, it's so you did
Um,
see that scene though? The Gently Johnny scene?
which one's that?
The main cut scene from this movie that makes the biggest difference between the theatrical version and all of the preferred versions, of which there are many,
Yeah.
is there's like a second seduction night scene, and this one has like a giant orgy going on outside the window and shots of snails, and you get Christopher
Oh,
Lee coming in way earlier,
yes,
and
yes, yes.
he's like talking about the orgy, and
I
yeah.
looked that up on TikTok. I
Oh,
had to like look
good.
up I looked up things randomly. I was thought about just watching the whole one again on my computer.
So reasonable not
Time
to.
eludes
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
But
that's a
yeah,
big
so
commitment.
it's like I think because of the nature of how I watched the one, things
Mhm.
came up sooner in pacing than it should have.
Yeah, yeah, the
Like the
pacing
first
is
seduction scene
very
is like
wrong.
immediately. It's like
Yeah, and
immediate. And it's like, what the
yeah,
hell?
and that's supposed to be that one, the one that they put there is supposed to happen in the second night.
Mm.
So,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
the version that I watched,
Yes.
you get the
Yes.
orgy
Which makes
scene where you had
sense.
that one, and then you
Yeah.
get the wall knocking
Yes.
scene, like, an hour into the movie, which
That
makes a lot
makes
more
sense.
sense.
And so I'm like,
Yeah.
again, I'm happy I watched the one I watched because I can appreciate that I'm gonna appreciate it more. I
It
just I don't know, maybe just musically they fell flat, but on a whole, I rather enjoyed it.
Oh, good! I'm
Everyone's
pleasantly
saying it's
surprised.
I was gonna say everyone's saying it's slow, can go suck a lemon. I highly disagree with that as a
I
critique.
I
And I wanna
adore
know
this
where that's
movie.
stemming from. It's the, in a sentence you won't hear me say
Mhm.
again, I really enjoyed the cop character. He was just a very there was something charismatic about the actor playing him
Mhm.
and that bumbly fumbly, like,
He's
he
yeah.
was just so
He
fun to
he
watch on
he's
screen.
like a great, patsy. Like, he's great at,
Yeah.
like, being
Yes.
tricked.
Yes.
Like
Yeah, just a yeah, I very much it was funny because like, I was also in a really grumpy mood when I watched it, so that didn't help, but I
so
did walk
fair.
away, went on a decompression dog walk,
Mhm.
and was like, I rather enjoyed that,
Oh,
and I really appreciate where
good.
it falls in folk horror. And I yeah, I walked out really pleasantly
Oh,
surprised,
I'm
and I
so
wanna watch it on
happy.
a better day. I thought I was gonna hate it, like, truly, I thought I was gonna, like,
Mhm.
hate it, and
I
I'm
thought so
like,
too.
"Oh, that was kind of fun and
Oh
really
my god, I'm so
interesting,"
relieved.
and, like, the critiques I heard about it are what I feel like worked for it, and
Oh,
so,
interesting. What were the critiques you heard? Because this is one that I brought
um
almost no criticism in for because I had so much
oh.
juicy other stuff, so
Because mainly I had questions, so I didn't wanna, like, look up too much on the
Mm,
film, but
mhm,
I heard people, like, for both, like, pacing and kind
mhm.
of the absurdity of it, and
Yeah,
the naivety of but,
that's
like, those were all the things that were
that's what I
supposed to be that
love.
way.
Yeah, yeah,
And they were supposed to be
absolutely.
that way
Mhm,
for us buying into this community that's like, "No, this is
mhm.
how it is, and we believe
Yeah,
it because that's how it is."
yeah. We don't know who Rowan is. Rowan's a rabbit.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and, like, well, she died according to you, but, like, not to us.
Yeah,
Like, and I'm just like,
yeah.
yeah, but it was like Alice in Wonderland,
Mhm,
you know?
it's
And
a
so
very and I know you love an Alice in Wonderland,
I
like,
do.
narrative shape.
I
Um,
do.
yeah.
So, yeah, I was pleasantly
Ugh.
surprised, and I really wanna watch it on a good day so I can be less of a grump about it, but I walked away, like, almost being, like, annoyed that I didn't hate it.
Well, because this would have been so funnily balanced if we'd each
Yeah.
hated each
I
other's,
did
yeah.
not I gotta say, though, the songs were I really could have done without and I get why they're
Oh my
there,
god, that's so
right?
funny because like,
I
that was my
can't say I loved
biggest
you love
that was
them?
my
I can't
biggest takeaway the second time seeing it this time
oh,
around was I
no.
was like, "Oh
Okay.
my god, I love the soundtrack so much." I've been, like, jamming to this soundtrack.
Oh, that's where we greatly disagree, my dear.
Oh
Yeah, that was like the only thing I really walked away.
That's so
I was
funny.
like, I get that the director's cut is the
Yeah.
one. Nobody else watched the other one. It was stupid in that way. And then, yeah, just
Oh my
I
god.
was
No, I've been over here like corn rigs and barley rigs.
oh my god. And I get that because it's so campy. It just like
Oh my
didn't get
god, yeah.
it for me. It didn't do the thing. It reminded me of well, you're like a super theater kid.
Oh
I
yeah. This is
I
very
was
it's yeah.
theater in a different way. I did the sets, right?
Mhm.
I wasn't talented enough to be on stage. Maybe I'm bitter, who knows? But I feel like the theater kid, it felt like
Mhm.
I was trying to say this is nobody at me. At the end of like what is it like? What's the age of the oh my god, that's the wildly the wrong song. Age of Aquarius.
Oh,
What's
hair. Yeah,
Hair. It
hair.
reminded me of Hair, and I can't say
It's
that's my favorite
yeah.
musical, and so that's why.
It's very hair energy.
It's
You are
very
not
Hair
wrong.
energy.
Yeah, it's giving
So,
hair for sure.
it's giving Hair, and that's just
Okay,
it's not my
yeah.
favorite, so
Okay, yours is
that's
giving hair
my opinion.
pies. Mine is giving hair.
Yeah,
That's
mine's giving pube pies, you're giving
yeah.
hair pies.
Gross.
Can't say
Oh my
either
god.
are great for me, so
Um,
anyways, that's enough
I
about me with that, so I'm
so
excited,
relieved that
actually.
you liked it more than I expected.
Me too, to be
I think
fair.
also like a big part of why I love this movie as much as I do is that I saw it for the first time in the theater in a restoration when like the new version of it was like just
Oh,
being redone in
cool.
Brooklyn with like a
Ugh,
giant packed audience
ugh,
and like really great speakers and like
mhm.
that like like got to see it the way it's meant to be seen, and
Yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like seeing it on that scale helped the campiness play in the way it was meant to, and so now watching it on my own, like I have that
You,
fond
like,
memory
feel
to call back to. Um,
I would love to see this with an audience in like a single screen cinema and like
oh yeah.
be with people because it was yeah, I mean oh my god, the masks at the end, that whole like
Aren't
all the
those
beats and the walk. I'm
great?
just like,
Yeah.
how dare they
And like
make such beautiful
the first
costumes?
reveal of like the actual Wicker Man himself is
hmm
like cinema. Um,
it really, especially towards the end, I was just like,
mhm.
again, I was so grumpy, and the fact that I wasn't just like fully like fuck this movie
I mean, like, it's like it almost, like, does
really
to you as a
shows.
viewer what it's doing to him. It's like it tricks you by being like, "Oh, I'm just so hokey and silly," and then, like,
Mhm,
bit by
mhm.
bit, it reels you in, and you're like, "Oh, god damn it, this is actually kind
Yeah.
of fun," and then at the end, like, that first reveal happens, and you're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
fuck,"
Read
which is
read me
exactly
like a
his
book.
reaction. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm happy because I really had zero hopes for this movie. It was one of the very few that I'm like, I don't see me walking out of this
That's
liking
so
a
funny.
goddamn thing, and
That's so
don't know
funny.
why. But
Um,
now I feel like, I'm
I
like, "Woo, I'm part of the club a little
yeah,
bit."
I
Minus the
I
songs. Won't be singing with you.
I hope that at some point you do get to go back and watch the director's cut just because
I
like
want to. Yeah.
the, the pacing is different and the other thing that's different is it starts on the mainland and so you see a
Yeah, the
little
whole
bit of
opening with
yeah
him
uh,
talking and everything too.
and that's really like important table setting I think for us to see
It
like
yeah.
how stiff he is in his regular life and that
Mhm.
like even on the mainland people are like you are a prude sir
Yeah, yeah.
like that context is important
It
um
within f I think it was, like, within 4 minutes, I was like, "Let me see the differences." So, like, during the movie, I already, like, was
That's
looking this
helpful.
up and knew
That's
this,
really
so I
helpful.
was very aware, but yeah,
Mhm.
nobody watched the other version.
I mean,
Bless Tubi, I wish they had it. I
I
watched on Tubi, and I
know.
really wish
And it's
someone fucking had it.
you know, the thing is, I looked up every single major streaming site to try and find the correct version on any of them. The only place I could find it is archive.org.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
the
Which
free
is
site.
wild.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna no, I'm
Um,
gonna watch it on my laptop.
yeah.
I think maybe
Highly
like
recommend.
next week at some point. Yeah,
Love.
because I was like,
Um,
oh, okay. So
and like it's also this is Christopher Lee's favorite movie of his career. He loves this
Oh.
movie so much, and he talks about how it got, like, hacked to bits, and he's
Oh,
like, "And I
no.
still love it this much," and
Oh,
so, like,
that's
the
so sweet.
director's cut is, like, a little closer to Christopher Lee's favorite version, and so, like, seeing him
Ew.
just, like, camp his way around the
God, he's
set on that
so
one is
good.
this is prime Christopher Lee. Like, it's
Oh,
his favorite
truly.
performance, it's also my favorite performance
Yeah,
of
yeah,
his. Li
yeah.
it's but
He's
with, like,
so
the
everyone's so good in
yellow
this.
70s suits and the, like, crazy hair. He's also somehow,
His
even with all of that, never looked hotter, and I'm like, "This makes no sense."
He looks
Yeah.
so young in
I
this, it's so
know.
crazy,
He's
it's
in his
so weird,
50s. It's
which is
wild.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
For the
Um,
70s, he looked good for being
he
in his
really, really
50s,
did.
unlike a lot
Yeah.
of people in the 70s who
Truly.
looked
He does
in their
not have
50s and
70s
weren't.
50-year-old face. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, okay, so diving in, we have so much ground to cover.
Yeah.
Because this one has obviously a lot of stuff about the release and how we get all these different versions, and there's like all these
Ooh.
weird conspiracies behind it and like possible crimes, and Roger Corman plays a
Oh.
role, but there's also
Oh, fuck.
so much production stuff. So like there's like
I
two equally
imagine.
meaty sections, and we've got a lot to cover. I am gonna cut stuff as I go so that I can make sure that we're getting just the juiciest. But
Ooh.
um so schlocky taglines to start us off with.
Oh.
There's a whole lot. I brought in just a selection. We have four that I thought were worth bringing in.
Ooh, nice.
One, an island lost to unspeakable terrors of pagan rituals, and pagan rituals is in all caps.
Of course, of
Um,
course.
of course, we have an incredible occult thriller of pagan practices and fertility rites.
Ooh.
So really trying to sell the sex there.
Yep.
We have in quotations, "You'll simply never understand the true nature of sacrifice," which I think is my personal favorite.
Oh,
We love a
that's
quote.
great,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a really good one. And then
Oh, no.
possibly the most 70s of all, "Flesh to touch, flesh to burn, don't keep the Wicker Man waiting."
Oh my god, that's a great poster, honestly, for this movie.
It really,
They
yeah,
all
it
eat, they're
captures
all
the
great.
energy, it really
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
This movie is directed by Robin Hardy, who has an uncredited cameo in the director's cut, but not in the regular one,
Mm.
because he's the minister on the mainland.
Oh, nice.
And this is his directorial debut, and he only directed two other movies, The Fantasist
Damn.
and The Wicker Tree, which is kind of like a spiritual sequel to this movie from 2011.
Oh, shit.
Not well received. We'll talk a
Yeah,
little bit
that's
more about it later. He also wrote a couple other projects, but he did not write this one. Very kind of odd career. The screenplay is by Anthony Schaffer, who is actually like a lot of the taglines that I didn't bring in were talking about Anthony Schaffer because he's way
Oh.
better known. He's the one who wrote Alfred Hitchcock's Frenzy. He also
Oh,
did,
shit.
yeah, and Joe Mankiewicz Sleuth, and the Hercule Poirot mysteries, Death on the Nile, Murder on the Orient Express.
Oh,
So he was,
shit.
yeah, he was like a big mysteries guy.
Yeah.
And he actually started out, a lot of his early career was also as a stage actor, and we'll come back to that in a bit. And this is inspired by a 1967 novel called Ritual by a guy named David Pinner, who does not get an on-screen credit, but they did buy the rights from him.
Mm.
Oh no, Pinner also was an actor. I think it's Pinner that I'm thinking of, who had this acting
Okay.
background. Apologies. We'll come back to that. The acting background is important. But first, let's talk about our actual actors. We have Edward Woodward, what a great name,
Love.
as Sergeant Howie, who I had to look this up because he's playing a virgin in this film.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
He, at the time of this production, was 42.
Oh my god. 42-year-old virgin. Got it.
That's exactly what I wrote. He's the 42-year-old virgin. Incredible. This is, I think, today his best known role, but he had a very long career. He's also Tom Weaver in Hot Fuzz. So if you recognize him at all, yeah, he's
Wild
as an
title.
elder. He's in Hot Fuzz. He's Merlin in Arthur the King. He's the Ghost of Christmas Present in the 1984 version of Christmas Carol. He's in The Equalizer, and he's the title character in Breaker Morant, which was apparently something that he was well known for at the time. I've never heard of it. That's fine though. We've again, there's so much to get through. We have our beloved Christopher Lee as Lord Summer Isle. I just wanted to shout out that he has 290 credits on IMDb. Like,
Oh I'm not surprised, but
Yeah,
holy fuck, can you
I know.
imagine?
The
Jesus
man's
Christ.
insane.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've covered him before on Sleepy Hollow. He comes back and makes a cameo in The Wicker Tree, the like
Mm.
spiritual sequel that director Robin makes that's not well received.
Uh-huh.
Um, then we have Diane Salento as Miss Rose. She's also Molly and Tom Jones. She's in a movie called Ombre. She's in Dead Planet. She's the angel in The Angel Who Pawned Her Harp. um,
Love a title.
and
Love a good title.
oh my god, I know. And at the time that this production happened, she was married to Sean Connery, but years later, she would marry
Mm.
screenwriter Schaffer. So they had
Oh,
like this
oh.
decades long, yeah, slow burn going on.
Bet.
And some folks say that she was a practicing white witch at the time of this production, which I thought was kind of
No way.
fun.
That's fun.
Her character, she's the one who's the school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we have
That's so
Britt
fun.
Eklund as Willow. She's a very important sex symbol of the time. She's in The
Mm-hmm.
Man with the Golden Gun, The Night They Raided Minsky's, What the Peeper Saw, and Beverly Hills Vamp. Again, incredible titles.
Ooh.
We have Ingrid Pitt as the librarian, who was a Hammer horror regular. So coming from that same world that Christopher Lee
Nice.
was. She played Carmilla in The Vampire Lovers, Countess Elizabeth in Countess Dracula, Carla in The House That Dripped Blood, and she also appears as two characters in multiple episodes of 70s and 80s Doctor Who. So that's the other thing that people
Oh.
might recognize her from. And Lindsay Kemp, who plays Alder the Innkeeper, wild guy. He was a famous professional mime who worked with David Bowie and Kate Bush. Yeah.
What? I love
Yeah.
how I heard Theo go meow during
She's
that.
like, what?
She's like a mime.
Oh, Theodore.
Oh my god.
She's like, I could never
what
be
a
that quiet.
yeah. What a wild truly a mime
Yeah.
too. What a wild thing to be a professional at.
Indeed.
Very cool. Love that.
Yeah, and I think a big part of why he has such a weird energy in this movie, like not
Yeah.
your typical stereotypical British innkeeper at all.
No.
So
Mime energy.
mime energy, big mime energy.
I feel like I can sometimes bring big mime
Oh
energy,
my
and I don't know if
god,
that's a compliment to
same,
myself.
same. Also a good t-shirt, big mime energy,
Mhm.
with the like French black and white stripes.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, production company is British Lion Films, which also released Twisted Nerve, which, if you've seen Kill Bill 1, when the nurse is
Mhm.
walking down the hallway whistling, the tune that she's whistling is from Twisted Nerve.
Yes. We talked about that one.
Yes, I love that one. And British Lion also released Don't Look Now, which is going to become a
Mm.
very big player in this and future episodes. Spoiler alert. But we'll circle back to that. Don't worry. Put a pin, though, in this because British Lion gets bought out right before production on this film
Oh
starts.
shit.
Which
Oh
becomes a
no.
very big... we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah. Yep.
But before that, we've got to get back to Ritual, the novel that inspired the film. Okay, yes, I did get them mixed up. So David Pinner, the one who wrote the novel that it's based on, is the one who'd been an actor for a while,
Okay.
which
Interesting.
is key to the inspiration behind the story because he wrote that novel while he was starring in a production of Agatha Christie's The Mousetrap. So he was thinking about that kind of like,
Oh.
like old-fashioned mystery as he was working on
Yeah.
this, and combining that with witchcraft. And he started writing it while he was like sitting on the tube going back and forth between rehearsals.
Love that. How fun.
hmm And it was originally supposed to be a film before it was supposed to be a novel, which there's like rumors that it was going to star John Hurt. I found it hard to like confirm that one, but Pinner's agent told him to make it a novel instead because it would be easier to get it published. Pinner's like, okay, bet, I'm going to go away, comes back, brings a manuscript 8 weeks later,
Damn.
and
Nice.
then in 1971 sells the the script rights to Christopher Lee.
Oh shit.
mhm.
Whoa.
So Lee Schaffer, the screenwriter, and producer Peter Snell, I think apparently chipped in equal thirds, but Lee is the one that he was like working directly with, and that's like
Ugh,
very important.
that's
Christopher
cool.
Lee was like this project's #1 champion from beginning to
Ugh,
end.
I
It's
love that.
very cute. And because of the connection to the novel that this is based on, Ritual, that book went out of print and then became a giant collector's item on eBay. And so for a while, copies of it were like £500 a piece.
Oof.
Yeah, just because people love The Wicker Man so much.
Yeah.
So we end up instead with a film production that is inspired by Ritual, but is not like a direct adaptation of Ritual,
Okay.
with Christopher Lee attached from the beginning. And director Robin and screenwriter Schaffer already knew each other from working together at an ad agency, so they're kind of like a ready-made team. And so they actually, this is so cute. They kind of have like a writing Frankenstein style get together at this director Hardy or director Robin at the time has this house on a little island in the Thames, and so they get together over a weekend and just figure out the whole story together over
Ugh,
that time, all shut up in their
casual.
little house on their little island house.
Yeah.
Um, and director Robin says, screenwriter Tony and I were great horror film buffs, and we used to see a lot of the original Hammers. Wondered why it was that they always centered on pentacles, garlic, stakes, and hearts, and all those other things to do with black magic. We thought it would be fun to go back to the religion on which all this hokey witchcraft stuff was based, the old religion, and recreate a contemporary society that's pre-Christian. And screenwriter Schaffer
Mm.
adds, I don't think a serious film on the subject had been done before. The subject opened up the world of horror and terror, but also had an intellectual content that gave us a chance to do something quite thoughtful and provocative. And one of the things that director Robin wanted to make sure as they were talking about the screenplay was he was like, I want a major clue about what's going on to appear about every 5 minutes, whether the audience is picking up on them or how he's picking up on them or not.
Ooh.
If you watch it back about every 5 minutes, we get another hint at what's going on.
Oh,
Which
that kind of goes with like the mystery of it, of like trying to,
exactly.
how fun.
hmm This is a big part of where, yeah, that like mousetrap style Agatha Christie vibe
Yeah.
comes from.
Cool.
hmm Which I was like, if there's anything Al likes, it might be that.
I
But,
do. I love a rewatch and being able to
mhm.
like find, I love rewatchable horror like that.
Yeah, this one definitely is like full of dramatic irony once you know what's
Ugh.
going on. And Hardy, director Robin, borrowed a lot from the book The Golden Bough and from Victorian English songs while he was looking for kind of like religious inspo, because he actually, unlike Ari Aster, was like, I want this to be as authentic as possible.
Yeah. Not a fantasy.
Yeah. Is he accurate? You know,
Yeah.
not quite, but he says, quote, everything you see in this film is absolutely authentic. The whole series of ceremonies and details that we show happened at different times and different places in Britain and Western Europe. What we did was to bring them all together in one particular time and place. The Wicker Man itself is quite real, asterisk there. The Druids used that structure to burn their sacrificial victims. What we hoped would fascinate people is not that they would think these things are still going on in Europe, but that they would recognize an awful lot of these things as sort of little echoes from either out of their childhood stories and nursery rhymes or things they do at various times of the year. And I do think that's very accurate. The
Mm.
sense of like, it kind of like pulls on these superstitions that we have, even though
Mhm,
this is
mhm.
like pulled to an extreme.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
the asterisk on the Wicker Man being this authentic druidic thing,
yeah.
that's actually, according to the screenwriter and a whole lot of other people, not where this even came from in the first place. It actually, the first like recorded reference to a Wicker Man is from Julius Caesar. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
what?
who Julius Caesar has this text called Comments on the Gallic War, and
Mhm,
he writes
mhm.
in translation. Others have figures of vast size, the limbs of which formed from osiers, which is like wicker, basically, a
Mhm.
fancy word for wicker, that they fill with living men, which being set on fire, the men perish enveloped in flames. And Schaffer had read that description and called
Oof.
it the most alarming and imposing image that I had ever seen.
I
So,
mean, it's really
yeah.
visceral. Like you see exactly what a great descriptor in such a short.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I can
It's
only imagine reading that and being like, "Holy shit, that
hold
got that."
on. Yeah. Gotta put that in
And
the
heard.
screenplay.
Write
Yeah.
it down. Write it down.
um Do you want to take a guess at the budget as we
Oh
move into production? I
God.
wanted to get us through the like themes approach history writing as quick as possible to get into the meat.
Yeah, I'm gonna say like 500K. I don't know. It feels
Oh
random.
my gosh. It is
Mildly.
500K but in pounds. So,
Ah! Hey,
yeah.
yeah, I totally meant pounds. What are you
There
talking
you
about?
go. Yeah, you didn't specifically say dollars.
I did not. Sick. Okay.
Yeah. Well, so to be fair, I've seen two different figures quoted. One was
Sure, sure.
500,000 pounds, which I then like looked up the conversion rate. At the time, that would have been about 1.2 million US.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
but then director Robin also says it's around 750,000
Mm,
US instead. So it's somewhere in that range, 750
sure,
to
sure.
1.2.
That
So
feels right. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
very cheap. This is a very,
Yeah.
very cheap movie, and it gets cheapened in post production, but we'll talk about that when we get
No.
there. And as the credits tell us, it was shot entirely on location in Scotland, although it was actually a combination of 25 different locations that they used to put this
Ooh,
together.
boy.
Yeah, which, like, imagine editing that and, like, location scouting this to,
I
like,
was gonna
piece
say
them.
scouting, traveling,
Oh my god, yeah. To stretch the
yeah, base
budget also
camps
to go to
everywhere.
25 different locations,
Yeah,
there are even descriptions where like they
hotels.
went to one place just to shoot a shot of the stairway. And I'm like,
Oh
you
god.
you could have combined this a little bit. Cut the
Yeah, you
stairway.
could have
I'm
shot.
sorry, Robin.
Yeah, why
Like,
that specific stairway?
yeah.
I'm sure there were others, but that's
I
fine.
mean, it's a creepy stairway, but like, is it really worth that extra
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
location?
yeah.
It's in like a different city too.
Get a
Like, it's
vision.
crazy. Um, But so yeah, 25 different locations that had 7 small towns, the Isle of Whithorn, the Isle of Skye, and at least 2 different real castles, plus an estate for the gardens. All the palm trees that we see are real. That's actually a thing that happens in this part of the Hebrides, the islands off the
Mm,
coast of Scotland, where like because of the way that like the water comes in there
yeah.
is this little area that has this like subtropical climate that's
I
really
didn't
bizarre.
think about that. That's so wild.
I know, I had no idea. And they shot in two real different caves. Um, Unlike The Descent, none of these are styrofoam.
Yeah.
Um, so remember I mentioned that the production company had just been bought out.
Ugh, yes. Oh no.
So production company British Lion gets bought out in April. And the
Okay.
guy who buys it has a reputation for buying up failing businesses, shutting them down, and basically stripping them for parts. And
Oh
it starts
no.
looking like things are going in that direction. And so the film unions get furious
Oh
and
no.
are going to shut the deal down, essentially. So, in order to prove that he wasn't planning on doing that, the new owners are like, oh, fuck, we've got to push something through into production right now.
Oh
And
shit.
it's The Wicker Man.
Oh my
Which,
god.
yeah,
Which
so
they
it's
were like,
actually,
phew.
yeah, it's the company getting bought out that convinces them to make this. But the thing is,
Wild.
because of that, because this buyout just starts happening in April and it takes a while for this dynamic to develop, this film ends up shooting in October and November.
Oh
Yeah,
no.
that's the cast and
All
crew's
outside.
reaction. Uh-huh. It
Oh
sure
no.
is. So it's like this is basically like a reverse Halloween situation where
Yes. Yes.
because like where that they had to like bring in all the fake leaves, here they had to bring in fake blooms and leaves to glue onto these dead tree branches.
Oh
And
no.
so,
That
but
makes
like they have
sense.
such a small budget and so much of it is set in fucking orchards. And so they have to have so many trees. So they just make a bunch of fake dressed blooming trees that they then stick onto the real ones so that they don't have to redress each tree.
That kind of makes sense
It
actually looking,
does.
but like
But
it
it
fits.
until you know, you buy it, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It makes sense why like the
Mhm.
trees kind of look bare, but I didn't even like think it doesn't take away
Yeah.
like Halloween where I was like it's
Right.
called Halloween where the fucking pumpkins, but
Yeah, like, I know I
yeah.
had, like, one moment where I was like, "Oh, if it's May Day, I feel like it wouldn't still be blooming, like, it would be, like, leaves on the trees by
Mhm.
now." But, like,
Mhm. Mhm.
I didn't care, you
Yeah,
know?
just yeah, moving on.
Um, I had no idea until looking it up. Um, and a fun fact about this, Ingrid Pitt, our, Hammer horror icon, it was so cold that, like, in between takes, Edward Woodward, who plays Howie, would put his feet in between her knees to warm them up, and she said, "Don't
Aw.
worry, they're gonna burn you in a minute."
Love that.
So I like that they all
You'll be up in
they had
flames,
a
it's
good
fine.
sense of humor about the
Yeah.
misery that they were undergoing because it was very cold and very rainy
Oh,
and
man.
foggy and just awful. Um So, cast and crew. I have seen a few different secondary sources claim that the main character role was actually offered to Michael York, who was filming Cabaret at the time and had to turn it down.
Oh, interesting.
I've not found enough good rumors to back it up, but I feel like I could see him in that role
Mhm.
pretty easily. There's also talk about the guy who stars in Deep Red being
Oh.
being in this instead.
Oh, funny.
Um, Again, couldn't find super good backup
Mhm,
for it, but
mhm.
I could picture it. And while we're talking cast rumors, because if there's one through line of this film, it is that there is so much gossip about every single aspect of this.
Oh.
Like the lore of this film is so deep and so bizarre. So our one little bit of lore that we're going
Mhm.
to dive into. Ingrid Pitt, our the one who's warming feet between her knees,
Yeah.
who plays the librarian, apparently she denies this, but everybody else says it was
Oh,
true.
no.
That she had an affair with the film's producer during the shoot, and the
Oh, really?
problem is at the time, according to this rumor, and I this is checkable. I can't say that I checked this that thoroughly, but her husband at the time was apparently the head of a theater chain, and he found
Oh,
out
no.
about her cheating and took it out on the film, and that's part of the release drama that this film allegedly
Oh,
experiences. Is
no.
he's like,
Oh,
"Oh, I'm not going to let that
no.
get released in any of these theaters that I
Oh,
run." Which
no.
makes a lot of sense, but that's just the first
Sure.
layer of gossip.
Oh, no.
Let's peel back another layer and get some more, shall we? We have to talk at this point about the many Britt Eklunds, who's the one who plays Willow,
Mhm.
because it's not just Britt playing Willow. It is a combination of many, many actors working
Oh,
together to bring
God.
this performance together. Britt is a Swedish actress, which is
Mhm.
important because it would appear, according to many people, that she had a lot of trouble with the Scottish accent. And
Ah.
why do I say that? Because every single line of her dialogue is dubbed. Even though she's speaking in English, her
Oh,
entire voice is not
no.
hers.
Oh, that always makes me so
I
sad for the
know.
actor when you
It's
really think,
really upset.
"Oh,
And this is just
no."
just the beginning. So her dialogue is dubbed by a Scottish jazz singer named Annie Ross
Mhm.
against Eklund's wishes, which is one of many reasons why she has disowned this movie.
Ugh.
Apparently there was also a third actor who sang her songs for her, so it's like three different, like, her voice that then gets covered up by another voice that's then a third voice when she's
Oh,
singing.
boy.
It's a
Oh,
whole lot.
boy.
And there's this weird controversy because she insists that it's not her voice, but the director and editor both say that they never dubbed her, and it's like, what?"
I'm sorry, excuse me?
Yeah, it's very weird. And then to make matters much worse, the other reason she's angry, the butt double. Um
No, not the
yes,
dreaded butt
the
double.
the dreaded butt double.
Oh, no.
so
Oh, not
so
by
Britt
her choice.
Eklund, not by her, and this get okay. I feel bad about that, but it also does get funny. I promise you.
Okay.
So she only gave permission to be filmed nude from the waist up. So the director brought in a body double again against her wishes, and she's mad. But why is she mad? It's because, as she says, quote, "I didn't want to show my bottom, but I shot myself in the foot. They put the ugliest, biggest bottom in the world.
No.
Mine was much smaller and much nicer. I recently found out it was from a stripper from Glasgow." And like, oh my God, how the times change. Like that, can I just say, the ass is incredible. Like, what are you
That
talking
isn't that
about?
why I mean, the trends of,
Hmm.
like, female bodies in
Yeah,
history is so wild, where,
it's
like, the
so
biggest, fattest
fascinating.
bottom would have been the biggest compliment, but now
Yes,
we've the pendulum has swung the
it has
other way in the
already
last few
swung.
years.
Yeah, it's so
Um,
wild.
oh my I
Yeah.
knew she was gonna say something like that. She's like, "My ass
Hmm.
is way nicer." It's like,
Yeah,
"Well, I don't know what to
my
say. You
ass is
didn't
so
wanna
much
shown."
smaller. Yeah. And
Yeah,
this
you
like
could say
this
that with your butt not on screen.
exactly. And this becomes such a big issue that like for decades after you see articles with headlines like Eklund reopens controversy of the mystery
Oh,
rear.
boy. Shut up.
Shut it down.
I
Um
almost said shut it down, yeah.
Shut it
Shut
down.
it down.
And the other, again, there's so many layers to every single story from this. She's also, it turns out, pregnant at the time, but she
Mm.
swears up and down that she didn't know that she was pregnant at the time, and so that's not the reason she asked for body double, that she only found out partway through the shoot. So we don't know who to believe. It's very complicated. There's a lot of different stories going on. There's a lot of different butts going on. You choose who you
So
believe.
many
You
cheeks.
choose your butt. So many cheeks. Turn the other one. um, so oh my god, this really gagged me. So the musical director of the film, who we'll come back to later, but he, for obvious reasons, because a lot of the music we're seeing played by characters, he was on set a whole lot, and
Okay.
so he was there for obviously the scene where she's like doing her seduction, knocking on the
Yeah.
wall.
Yeah.
He's there for filming that, and he alleges that the body double, which he says is a woman named Lorraine Peters, which is not the Glaswegian stripper that we've heard tell of in other places. She's actually, Lorraine Peters is the one who you see mourning on the gravestone, nursing a
Oh,
baby.
yeah, yeah.
And like, it does kind of make sense that it would be somebody who's already there, who kind of has that body type. Like, I kind of buy that, but anyway,
Interesting. Yeah.
according to
Oh,
him, she was on her period at the time, and
okay.
because of the way this was shot, she obviously couldn't use a tampon for the scene. And because like you would see the string, right? Which I'm like,
Sure.
they could have just cut it, but
I
like,
was like, cut
okay,
it, tuck
like,
it up. You can
yeah,
put it.
this is
There's
so
places
like
for
a
it to
set
go.
full of men. Yeah. But yeah, according to him, he's like, she's on her period, she's not using a tampon, and so according to him, he's like, there's probably still blood stains from filming that scene on the floor of that room.
Oh, don't shame her.
I
Like,
I
damn.
I
Not
like
you,
no,
them.
but I'm like, I love this as lore though. Like the idea
Yeah,
that
what a
she's just
wild thing
like,
to talk about
yeah,
for this
it's again
film.
like
Oh
all of the things that I
no.
wasn't expecting to come up. Like I really
I
wasn't,
like
yeah.
I also feel like I highly doubt there's like blood stains everywhere because I'm like there would you'd have to wipe her legs and
Yeah, like there
like
would, that's not
period
how
blood
like
is gonna if it
bodies
doesn't do
work.
anything, it's gonna
Yeah.
get everywhere. It's getting
Yeah.
everywhere and nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to be just like a couple nice little drops, but
Yeah.
like
Unless it
I
was like
think
last
this
day. Who
is,
knows?
yeah, who knows. But this is like a really good example of the way the lore around the Wicker Man has spawned these like
Yeah.
unbelievable but really enjoyable tall tales.
Yeah. I was gonna say what wild, like what funny
Yeah.
in quotes controversies and
Yeah.
like I don't know, pet like little weird nuggets to have
Yeah.
happen.
It's the again, so many
It's just
things
as
that I didn't
absurd
expect. It
as the
is
movie.
very absurd, yeah. And of course, our star of the show, we can't stop talking about cast and crew before we get to
Mhm.
Christopher Lee. Again,
Yeah.
loved this best of all of his performances, talked about it for
So
years,
sweet.
and said that before he played Saruman, this was the performance that he got asked about the most, was the Wicker Man.
Oh.
Um, and according to him, he didn't get paid for it intentionally. He
Oh.
says, quote, I got paid nothing. I keep repeating it to people and they don't believe it's true. I've got the contract to prove it. Anyway, sometimes you do things for love. If they
Ugh.
paid me my normal fee and everyone else their normal fees, they wouldn't have been able to make the film. And like, I'm guessing what he actually means by that is that they paid him scale minimum. Like,
Yeah.
legally, they had to pay him something.
And he's like, give my budget to sorry, hit my mic. To
Mhm.
everybody else with this. Or like, don't pay them
Yeah.
or me
Yeah.
what you need. He
And
would. I
I
believe that.
know. And the other thing that is true that we'll come back to later is that he ends up putting a lot of his own money and time into promoting the film. So I do think it's
I
quite
believe
likely
it.
that he made a net negative on the film,
Yeah, yeah,
which is
yeah.
so
Oh my god, bless
sweet.
him. Bless
Um
him. What a
and
treasure, R.I.P.
and he's well known at this point too. He's been doing decades of Hammer horror by the time he gets to this.
How
So
cool.
making of, we're on set now. There's blood everywhere. There's Wicker Man everywhere. Things are burning. Everyone's knees are cold, whatever. We have cinematographer Harry Waxman, who also shot The Pink Panther Strikes Again.
Harry
Um,
Waxman is a
what a name.
wild
Yeah.
name to name your child. Just putting that
Also,
out there.
wild name for the guy who goes on to shoot the Wicker Man. Like Wicker Man and Waxman? Are we kidding?
I'm
What's
like,
going on here?
There's too many things.
He also shot Twisted Nerve, the one we mentioned a little bit ago, and Journey into Fear and Sapphire. Certainly not like only a horror DP, but definitely has a lot of horror titles looking at his
Yeah.
resume. And he apparently had a terrible time making this film, and
Oh,
he kept, like,
no.
according to director Robin, kept, like, wandering up to him and being like, "What are we shooting this for?"
Oh, big
Yeah,
yikes.
yeah,
Like,
so
you can leave, kind
y
of,
yeah, I
probably,
mean, like,
you
there
know?
if you're that miserable, this is a beautiful film. Apart from the very last shot of the film, I'd argue there's not that much that, like, most competent cinematographers couldn't do
Mhm,
competently. Like, it's
mhm.
yeah. Um, but anyway, production design is by Seamus Flannery, who also did Repulsion, which I adore and have brought up a
Oh,
lot of different times on the
yeah,
podcast.
yeah.
Definitely want to cover at some point.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
he's also done Fly Away Home, The Spreading Ground, and Klondike Fever. And
Love
at
Fly
this
Away Home.
point, oh, I know,
Sorry, just gonna
classic.
shout that out. I wanna cry, watch that movie again.
Oh my gosh.
It's my
Um,
comfort one lately, so love that. Very
I
fun.
actually have never heard of it and thought you were joking. I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
no, the
Oh my
90s one,
gosh.
correct?
I think so. I
I
believe
mean, I think there's
so.
only one fly yeah, it has, Jeff Daniels, who you
Oh
don't
my
recognize.
gosh. Yeah. No
He's
wonder
as
it
a
didn't stick in my memory.
and baby, like, 10-year-old Anna Paquin, child.
Oh my
It
god, I
is a
love her.
beautiful movie, so
Ugh.
please do
Okay,
watch
gotta
it. Sorry,
watch.
anyways,
Gotta
moving on.
watch.
That's a very cool connection,
Um,
so
okay, so at this point we have to talk about the Wicker Man itself and how it was shot because it's insane.
oh god, I believe
Um,
it.
and I need to preface this by saying I'm about to share a very upsetting story, and then I'm going to
Oh,
share a story that
no.
proves that it's probably not true. So,
Okay,
buckle your
okay.
seatbelts
Whew.
in. Again, this is another case of there being wild rumors. We've got two contrasting ones, and I think one of them does a much better job of making its case than the other. So,
Okay,
I'll give
okay.
you the sad one, and then I'll give you the happy one.
Oh
Okay?
god, okay.
So we can end on a good
Whiplash.
note.
Let's go.
Okay. So, Britt Eklund of Bottom Double fame assumed she had a terrible time filming this and talked a lot of shit during production and actually got like the whole production in trouble because she gave a quote about the like area of Scotland they were in being like the worst, most miserable corner of the earth. And everybody there was like, "How dare you? Like, don't
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about
yeah.
us like
I
that."
believe
So
that,
like
yeah.
she's coming from a specific place as she's talking about this film. And I think that's like important context. And like again, she's got very good reason to be angry. They've like
Absolutely.
replaced pieces of her body and her voice.
Yeah.
Um, but important context. So she has made a couple of allegations and she's never been specific about them, but she says that there were animals who were accidentally harmed during the filming of The Burning Wicker Man.
Oh.
The director Robin categorically denies this and is like, there's
Mhm.
absolutely no way that's true, and here's why. And so
Okay.
I brought in a quote from him because again I really do think he's telling the truth here. He says, quote, "We had 3 Wicker Men. We only burned 2. The third one went down to Cannes for the film festival."
Oh.
Which great publicity stunt. Love that.
Yeah.
They were about 50 to 60 feet high, prefabricated down in England and brought up. The legs and the arms and the trunk were made separately and had to be joined on, and they had to be
Mm.
very strong. We set them in concrete because they had goats and sheep and all kinds of animals in them. They had to be able to hold these animals when they were rocking about because the animals obviously panicked when they were put on fire. Um, they weren't
Jesus
in it
Christ.
when it was set on fire, thank God, that was
Yeah.
faked. But of course, the RSPCA was very concerned, and the local villagers were very concerned that we were actually going to burn the animals. Of course, it was very time consuming because we had to keep getting all the animals down, pulling them up again. We built a fire in front of them, so there was no danger of them actually being hurt. And that to
Okay.
me, I'm like, he's talking about the RSPCA being involved. Like, he's giving a very detailed description. Like, I think that especially given that like Britt Eklund never says like this specific animal was killed while we were filming this thing. She's just like, "Oh yeah, and it's the worst place on earth and they accidentally killed animals." And
I
I'm
was gonna
like,
say, some people, like, don't understand even to this day, I'm shocked at how people don't understand filmmaking, so I can only
yeah,
imagine, like, the town heard about it, rumors spread. Was
indeed.
she even there that day? So maybe she heard the
Yeah.
rumors, and so I do believe, like, people just don't understand filmmaking, and
Yeah.
that quote gives,
That's
"Here's matter
very
of fact,
direct.
I'm not
Yeah.
making an excuse." It's like, "This is
Yeah.
actually what we did, but okay."
Yeah. And
And I hope.
so
I just hope.
exactly. And yeah, I'm also just like accidents do happen, but I also feel like that's the sort of thing. It makes me think of the story with the snake in Friday the 13th, where like we
I
were
mean,
able to source stories about that from so many different people who were on
yeah,
set, get it confirmed by
yeah.
multiple sources. You can see it in the footage.
Mhm.
Like, this is
Hear it in the
not that kind
footage.
of a
Yeah,
case.
yeah.
So I think like this to
Okay, good.
me,
Whew.
I really do
Can't do
trust
another
that.
animal death on
I
on this
know, I
podcast.
know. I think that this one is okay. However, there is
Yeah.
a funny story about the animals shooting that scene,
No.
because what does director Robin admit happened is pee. Lots of
Oh my
pee.
god. Oh no,
Um
scared animal pee.
yes, yeah.
Oh,
He
that's
said
so sad
it's so
too.
sad. He says, quote, "The goat kept pissing on our heads because apparently the poor thing was very nervous. You can hardly blame it." And I'm
Oh
like,
my god.
again, this sounds like a director who really like is caring about the animals.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah. Oh my god, poor buddies.
I know, I feel so bad for the goats. I feel worse for the actor, but we're getting there. So also apparently because they obviously shot this on a cliff overlooking the sea, and this
Mhm.
area of Wales that they were shooting by has like a shipping lane, so there's a lot of ships passing.
Ooh.
Apparently they got, as the director says, quote unquote, all sorts of strange messages from ships passing in the straits who saw this burning effigy on the cliffside and were like, "What you doing there, buds?"
Oh, yeah, you would imagine. That's actually so I want to hear from people who
Mhm.
like is there anyone still alive who was like my dad was on this ship
I
and saw that.
know. Yeah,
How
how did they
funny.
interpret this? Because like, usually
They're like, "Ooh."
anything that's that big is
Yeah,
probably a
50
signal
feet?
to a ship. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Not in this case, but my God, did it look like it.
No.
Which I feel like makes me think about the lighthouse, and there's like some interesting connections there.
Yeah.
Madness at sea and all that. Um,
Mhm.
Anyway, the remnants actually of one of those three Wicker Men was actually left standing around for decades on the location until apparently, and this is a story that I read in a newspaper, I didn't get details, but apparently a group of tourists who were coming to look at it because of Wicker Man tourism,
Mhm.
which of course becomes a thing after this, had a barbecue too close to it and burned it down.
No.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being a fan of something you're like,
I know.
well,
You're like, I destroyed this with my celebration of it.
and not watching that movie again.
Uh-huh. Too much
Oh
guilt, too much
no.
shame. Got some ships
We're gonna
signaling me on the way
skedaddle out of
back.
here. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We're gonna hitch ride. Actually, I'm gonna throw myself off the cliff onto the
Mhm.
ship and never to be seen again.
Yes, indeed.
Oh no. I would actually never forgive myself for the rest of my life.
Yeah, how could you? Like you've destroyed your own obsession. That's wild.
I hate
Also
people.
though, like how exactly do you have a barbecue that close to a giant
It was
wicker
in it
structure?
was in
And
they did it in the Wicker Man.
oh my God, you're so right. They
They
probably
probably were just like, this would
did.
be funny. And then they're like, well,
No.
didn't realize twigs burn.
Oh my God. Did you not watch the movie?
Pause for idiocracy.
Jesus Christ, that's so
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Man.
So before we move on from the Wicker Man itself, though, the I can't believe they did this. They actually had the actor playing Howie in it while it was set on fire. Yeah. They and so
Oh,
the
why would you do that?
I know. So they planned it really
You laugh,
care-
and that makes me like actually want to kill myself. That
It's
burning,
so crazy.
that's so terrifying.
I know. And like obviously the camera
I don't like
person's in there
that.
too. Like it's
I didn't think
like
about that. Yeah, they're
yeah.
like nestled up together. Oh,
Like
that
oh my
makes
God.
me hurt.
It's and like again, the
You,
descriptions they give of it, it's so clear that like this really did happen because there's so many specific details that like you couldn't make up. The way
Mhm.
they did it, so actors in there, there's an escape hatch at the back of the Wicker Man.
Escape hatch.
An escape hatch in case something goes wrong, aka the fire does what fire does.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
yep.
In case the burn burns too well.
Yeah.
So there's an escape hatch. He's actually on a pulley system that's attached to his belt so that if it starts
Just
like
gonna
going
yeet
up
him
in
out?
flames, they can yank him out the
Yoink.
back.
Yoink.
But
To
he's-
where? Where
I
is he
know.
being yoinked from? The ground?
I think so. Yeah,
With
so
a
he's just gonna get
crane?
like backwards yoinked out of the back of it. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And I'm like,
Okay.
okay, but was the cameraman on one too? Because I feel like
They were like,
probably
no,
didn't-
just him.
yeah, just him.
They're like, no, but the cameraman can get some really cool shots in there.
There's no mention of how they kept the camera person safe during this at
I hope
all.
they were just like tethered together and like
I
yoinked
know.
one and then yoinked the other as they
He's just
follow him.
like dangling from Howie's belts.
Yeah,
Like.
yeah.
And
Oh
director Robin,
no.
I love this man's sense of humor. He says, well, there isn't a society for the prevention of cruelty to actors.
I'm clapping in that one. Bravo. See, that's how I believe that he didn't do
That's how I
anything to
know
the
it's
animals.
true.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you
I'm
don't.
like,
Yeah,
you don't make that joke if that actually
that's
happened.
funny. That
Mhm.
is funny. God damn, the thing that people did before there was like any. Really, filmmaking was a lawless place at one point in
This
Siena.
was
We could have been part of it.
the
It would have
Wild
been
West of film. Yeah.
terrifying, but also so fun.
Listen, I would have been down to be pulled out the back of the Wicker Man
Same.
on an escape. Like, I would have
mean,
done it.
at
Put me
that
in their
time,
coach.
yeah.
Absolutely. But like, it's so true. Like, I'm sure that actually probably there were more restrictions about like you couldn't have the animals in there while it was on fire. And if the actor says yes, like, okay.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Okay, everyone consents.
Oh my God, it's wild.
Barely.
Again, would not happen this way today, but
Absolutely
I 100% believe that this story is true, especially because there's interviews with the actor being like, oh yeah, I acted my pants off because I was genuinely terrified. Like,
yeah, no acting involved.
literally, which I think is part of why, like, there is something about his, like, scream praying at the end of the movie that is really just, like, gut churning. And it's like, yeah, it
Yeah.
really feels like a human who thinks he's about to die. Like, it
And
really
how
does.
it's filmed too, like it feels
Yeah.
so claustrophobic, but it makes sense 'cause
Yeah.
they're just packed in there.
Yeah,
that.
and, like, I
Ugh.
think I realized, like, now that I know this, watching it a second time, I was like, "Oh my God, yeah, this is one of the smokiest fires I've ever seen on screen because it's actually fire." Like,
Because they're just like, well, we're gonna burn this and just
yeah.
capture it. I
And, like,
suppose.
that's a giant part of the danger of a real fire, right? Is, like, not just
Mhm.
the flames, but, like, the asphyxiation from the smoke, and, like, you're seeing it, like, fill that space, and you're like, "This doesn't feel safe to be in." And it's like, "Yeah, because it wasn't."
It's not.
It's not.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my God. So moving on from the Wicker Man, we're gonna get yoinked out the back of the escape hatch and continue along. Costume design is by Sue Yelland, who also did Superman 2, Nuns on the Run, Before the Rain, which I love, and the two Mrs. Grenvilles.
Ooh.
And I didn't find this in an interview from her, but I did see some people say that Woodward wore a police uniform that was one size too small for him to add into the character's kind of buttoned up atmosphere, which I think is probably
That's
true.
smart.
It does look
So
very
smart.
tight.
Mhm.
And the choreography, I had to bring in our choreographer because he's got an
Ooh.
incredible resume, actually. Choreographer is named Stuart Hops, which great name for choreographer also. Stuart
Yeah,
Hops, are you
what the
kidding
fuck?
me? He choreographed A Knight's Tale. I knew that would
Okay,
get
continue.
you.
Just
Yeah,
continue, but that's like the most beautifully choreographed scene in the
know.
movie. That's fine.
And like you're gonna see a real
Fangirl.
pattern here as I list off the others. So he did A Knight's Tale, Your Highness, Much Ado About Nothing, the 1994 Frankenstein, As You Like It, Love's Labour's Lost, Wings of the
Oh my
Dove, Hamlet,
God.
Twelfth Night, Othello, Sense and Sensibility, and The Tempest. So
Oh
like,
my God, all the period pieces.
yeah, if you're looking to
Wow,
do
what
a
a
period
career.
adaptation from like Western Europe, this is the guy you get to do your dances.
Oh my God, what a resume.
Isn't that so cool?
Wow. I had no
Um,
idea,
I was,
actually, as a
yeah, and like,
choreographer. So thank you for that knowledge.
yeah, and like we rarely get to talk about like choreographers in a horror
Mhm.
podcast, and so I was like, ooh, this is a fun thing to bring in.
God,
And
what a
it
genius.
ties, I know, he's incredible. And it actually ties into another incredible set story that was like another one where I was like, this movie can't be real. The set of this film cannot be real. So, for the naked fire dance sequence where the women are like
Mhm.
leaping over flames, they actually were wearing nude colored body stockings. You know, it
Okay,
was very
yeah,
cold.
yeah.
They were okay. But this behind the scenes story, amazing. So they shot the scene near one of the castles that they used for a couple of other locations. You know, we see it like there's like a shot through the castle window
Mhm.
as he's like there with Summerisle watching this happen. They're filming the sequence from far away on a telephoto lens. And all of a sudden, the women who are doing this scene in the middle of the take start screaming and running away. And they're like, what's happening?
Mhm.
Like, nobody's on fire, everybody's fine,
Okay.
what's going on? And then you just see this figure approaching them, like, across the hill, it's like this stately woman who looks just like the Queen of England, and she's got a herd of corgis with her, and the women are like, "Oh my god, the Queen of England is chasing us," as we're running in these nude body
Yeah,
stockings.
yeah, yeah.
It turns out that the wife of the man who owns the castle is not only a blood relative of the Queen of England, but also looks identical to her. And nobody had warned
Creepy.
her that they'd be filming this scene, and so she went out to take her corgis for a
For a
walk.
stroll, and
Just
then
going
was
for a
met with
stroll. Yeah, and is seeing these women jumping over flames, and she starts approaching them to be like, "Hey, why are you jumping over
"Are you guys
flames?"
good?"
Yeah. And they're like, "Oh my god! It's
The
the
queen's
queen!"
coming! The queen is coming!
The
What
queen
a
and her
wild
corgis!
perspective from both sides.
I know, like, which is
I
wilder?
I
Like,
don't know. I feel like, yeah, both
which
of
would you
those
question your sanity
the
more?
chances
Like,
of those things happening
yeah,
simultaneously
it's
it's never
insane.
happened
It's
again.
insane.
That's
Oh my god,
incredible.
love it so much. So, getting to the music that I'll hate so very, very much, the
Yeah.
soundtrack, which, like, it's totally fair, it's very 70s.
Mhm.
I mean,
It's
it's
very
very, like
70s.
it's very, like, 1370s, really, but, like, so the soundtrack is composed by a man named Paul Giovanni, who actually
Mm.
could not read music himself at this time, and so
Oh,
he would have the music director, who we quoted about the period, basically transpose the music for him that he would
cool.
compose.
Okay.
But if his name sounds a little bit familiar, which it may or may not, it's because one piece of his work actually appeared on the soundtrack of Hostel. So there was like a
Is
little
th
Giovanni quote in
is that
Hostel.
why, I wonder if I came across that 'cause I definitely read a lot of music about Hostel. Well,
It's
he gets a
there's like
pass for that.
the
For
one
something he had
thing.
no he had no responsibility about,
That's
but
so
that's
funny.
funny.
I'm pretty sure I think he had already passed by the point that came
Yeah,
out,
yeah,
but
like, he didn't know that was happening. He didn't get to decide that.
no, yeah, no relation. But for this, he composed many of the lyrics himself. He played guitar for a lot of the songs that you're hearing,
Mm.
and he's also the one singing on most of those tracks that we hate. Um,
He couldn't write music?
mhm. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I'll keep my thoughts to
Mhm.
myself.
Is this all kind of making a little bit of sense?
Yeah, a little bit. Actually, making me feel a
Mhm.
little bit better.
Yeah, good, 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 good. A
So
little bit
maybe,
of
like, good for
validation here,
him.
perhaps. Yeah.
He did his
um,
best.
and whether we think they worked or not, those songs
Mhm,
were
mhm.
really essential to what director Robin was trying to achieve. And
Sure, sure.
he said, quote, "Songs like the Maypole song tell you what's going on without the need for a great deal of back and forth and dialogue. It's not new. Opera has done it for years, but it was new in the sense of the kind of music we used." And this reminds me of something you said at the very beginning. There's like a bunch of stuff of him like halfway through the shoot being like, "So guys, we're actually making a musical." And
Yeah,
everybody
yeah,
being like,
yeah.
"We're what now?" And he'd be like, "No, it's always been
Okay.
a musical."
Oh my god. That's
Yeah, so
so that feels right. Again,
yeah,
yeah.
very
What he was going
um
for was achieved, I think, in that context.
I also think you would be comforted to hear that there were stories behind the scenes from the musical director and the composer, talking about how they'd like basically just discovered Coke in England at this point. um,
See, you're gonna make me like it, Sienna, because
yeah,
that's funny.
yeah.
If
There's
a guy who couldn't write music, just fucking high as shit, talking about witches in the 70s.
which is exactly what it sounds like,
It
right?
is it I can't again, it if that's what it was going for,
Yeah.
it did it
It
well.
achieved it. It achieved the goal.
Oh my god, that makes it so much better, and I'm, like, really upset. That makes it so funny. Yeah, yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
Coke had kind of just gotten here at that point. I remember that the musical director, like,
Oh
let
my
me try it
god.
for the first time. We were going to try some and, like, make some music, and then we just ended up laughing the whole time. And we were like, okay, so that's for after every
Oh
session instead of during it.
my god.
It
That's
makes a
funny.
lot of
What a
sense.
70s
Yeah.
thing. We're gonna try this thing. You wanna try this thing called Coke? Cash. Okay.
I've heard it's quite a bit of fun.
Yeah.
So, again, we're really painting a picture here.
Beautiful picture, to be
I
fair.
do, quite a picture. And the band Magnet that gets a shout out in the credits is like all songs performed by Magnet. Magnet, the band, does not exist outside of this film. It was made for this film by Gary Carpenter, who's the film's musical director that we've been quoting from, to perform Giovanni's songs. It was initially going to be called Lodestone, but then they found out there's another band under that name, so they changed it to Magnet because they were like next best thing.
That's wild that two people wanted to name a band that.
Lodestone, I know.
Lodestone.
I think it makes a lot of sense that the average age of the musicians in Magnet was 21.
Yep.
And they had a wild assortment of instruments. They had a jaw harp, a concertina, harmonica, bassoon, recorders, multiple recorders, not just one recorder.
Yeah, a lot of
fife,
percussion.
a lot of percussion. Fife, ocarina, lyre, etc. It's a very interesting, intriguing assortment.
All of those sounds. And I loved that, though. I love kind of some bizarre musical instruments used.
It definitely it has that very kind of like late psychedelic era feeling to it.
Yeah.
And Corn Rigs, the song that I've been re-listening to, actually uses lyrics from a Robert Burns poem, who was like the Bard of Scotland. But it was set to a different tune than is usually used for the poem. And a lot of the songs you hear are either based on or directly taken from real historic melodies. And actually the last song that you hear as the Wicker Man is burning and they're all singing Summer is a-Comin' In, is from the 13th century.
Okay,
it's like one of the oldest, I think, songs in English that we have recordings of, or older at least.
Oh, that's cool.
I mean, like, it doesn't make it good, but it is old.
But that's like what I like, that whether I like it or not is there at this point. That's just like really cool that they did that.
And despite how Al feels about the music, a lot of musicians actually really adore this soundtrack. It has been so widely covered. Some of the artists who've covered this: Sneaker Pimps, Faith in the Muse, the Mock Turtles. There's an LP from 2024 of just other bands doing covers of songs from The Wicker Man. And it's been referenced in songs and music videos by everyone from Iron Maiden to Radiohead to Pulp to Marduk. So like wild assortment. Though. Yeah.
Also the names of all the first bands that you listed, I'm like, those people would do that. Like the names
Sneaker
alone
Pimps,
tell me. Yeah,
the Mock Turtles. Yeah, of course they're covering the Wicker Man.
It's great. Like the Mock Turtlenecks. Is that what?
Oh my god.
I'm gonna start a cover band called the Mock Turtlenecks.
Isn't that great?
The Mock Turtles.
Oh my god, covering the Wicker Man.
Covering the Wicker Man. It's a real deep cut. There will be one person at every show.
Yes, and it would be glorious.
I do get it because there's such like, again, this like absurdity to it that I
my
get
god,
the latching onto it.
And it's also like the music is so prominent that I think it makes sense. I feel like a lot of musicians like imprinted on this film, like saw it really early and were like, well, there's nothing like that.
Coke for the first time.
Exactly. It's a rite of passage for musicians.
This is great.
Doing Coke to the Wicker Man for the first time. God.
Maybe that's how I should have watched it. No, I will not be doing that.
Oh my god. The music for the film actually goes on to be so iconic that it becomes the namesake for a music festival that was active from 2001 to 2015, which had the unbelievable motto. I had to bring this in for you. Their motto was the Wicker Man Festival. It's better than it needs to be.
That's kind of how I feel about the film. It's better than I thought it would be.
It's better than it needs to be.
Oh,
it could get away with being worse.
I love just the, like, oh my, I don't even know what to call, like, statements like that. Just the on the nose.
Yeah.
Dry office humor.
They really went there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's incredible. I thought you were going to say Burning Man. I thought Burning Man was.
We get there. There's
Okay.
there's a little connection later down the
Perfect.
line, but we'll get there. So moving into release, again, I'm gonna try to speed things up here because the release section is chunky. But
Mhm.
so we actually have to go back in time now because so January 1993, when the film was, I think, in early post-production, British Lion basically gets sold again. There's like a bunch of like trading of stocks, so it essentially changes hands. And the
Mhm.
new guy in charge is a man called Michael Dealey. And Michael Dealey becomes number one enemy for every person who loves the Wicker Man. This
Oh.
man has it out for this film, according to everyone but Michael Dealey.
Mm.
Um, so he first of all wants them to change the ending. He's like, this ending is way too dark. We need something that's more upbeat. How about if there's a thunderstorm at the end and it puts out the fire? Yay!
Oh god.
Yeah. And everybody's like, over my dead body, Michael Dealey. And so that does not
Yeah.
happen, thankfully. I couldn't find any info on how the filmmakers were able to keep him from forcing them to do that, but somehow they
Mhm.
managed it. Probably because it would have required reshoots and
Yeah,
would have
yeah.
cost money. And so I think that's probably what they used.
Be hard to
Um,
shoot too.
I know. There's a whole lot of reasons why that would be a nightmare. Um, it gets its first screening to an audience of mainly distributors and the like industry folks in December of 73. Then it does a week of test screenings before it gets its wide release in January of 74.
Mm.
But this actually ties into or is like a preview of episodes to come because it ends up getting released at the same time. British Lion is releasing one other horror film at the time. They have these two films, and they're like, oh, even though double features died out like 20 years ago, we should release this as a double feature. And we're going to make The Wicker Man the B picture. And so we're going to cut the fuck out of it to trim its
Oh
length down so that it
no.
can be a good double feature. The film that it gets released with is Don't Look Now, which is going to be one of my birthday picks. So a fun little preview of things to come. We'll definitely keep a pin in Don't Look Now to pull out in about a
Yeah.
month or so. Um, so now we get into the different versions. Director Robin himself said in an interview in the 90s that it's like only about 5 minutes that he thinks is missing. But the gap between what's often cited as the length of the complete version, which is 99 minutes, and the
Mhm.
theatrical cut, which is 87, is 12 minutes. So,
Mhm.
how does that much get chopped off? So, after Dealey, new distributor, can't convince them to change the ending, what he does instead is he sends it over to America to his good buddy Roger Corman and is like, what can I cut from this? And
Oh
so
man.
Roger Corman gives recommendations, tells them to cut 13 minutes. This then gets used to cut it down to the theatrical cut length, which makes a lot of sense because what did Roger Corman do?
Oh.
A whole lot of B pictures. And so he has them cut it like a B movie, which is the version you saw. It has this very
Damn.
B movie pacing. And this
Yeah.
very kind of like throwback to the 50s vibe almost, which is like a
Sure.
lot of what Corman does. Um,
Makes so much
but
sense.
director Robin and Christopher Lee are both pining over the original version. And unfortunately, Dealey basically allegedly has such a vendetta against the film. Director Robin recalls him walking out of the first screening and saying that it's one of the 10 worst movies he'd ever seen.
Oh.
And yeah,
Yikes.
Dealey denies this and says, I've made worse films than The Wicker Man, but,
That's actually really funny.
which is a
I
great
love that. I
response.
love that of him.
I know. I think he's very bitter about the way people have like made him into the enemy of
Painted
this
him.
film.
Yeah.
It does sound like he did have it out for it, but you
Mhm,
know,
mhm.
the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle. But things are so bitter that according to widespread movie legend and according to director of Repo Man, Alex Cox, who loves this movie and talked about kind of what happened to
Yeah.
it, apparently the original negatives to The Wicker Man, according to Alex Cox, were melted down to make pylons for the M3 motorway because they were turned into
Oh.
part of the highway. There's
Oh
actually this like
god.
bizarre story of director Robin going to like try and recover footage to make a director's cut and like going over to British Lion and being like, hey, do you have like the film in your archives? And then being like,
Mhm.
oh, we'll show you where it is. And they walk him out back and like
That's so
like point down into a
fucked.
pit and are like, Wicker Man's down there.
That's so
Yeah.
upsetting
Like,
for
can you
so
imagine?
many reasons. Oh my god.
Yeah,
I'd be like, "You're kidding." Like,
I
that's not even
know.
funny.
I
I
know.
think I'd leave silently at that
Yeah, like,
point.
how do you respond to that? Like, and so
You don't know, you can.
Christopher Lee being the drama queen that he is, and we love him for it,
Yes.
looks at all this and is like, "There's foul play going on."
I can solve this mystery.
Agatha Christie hat goes on.
Yeah.
The mousetrap time. And
Just
so he
breaks out
says,
his little spectacles.
it's wild. He says, quote, "I don't know whether instructions were given to destroy it or to hold it somewhere under another name, but I believe that the negative still exists." And so his crack
Gosh.
theory is that there's a version of the original Wicker Man negative that is being stored in the cans of another film to hide it from the people trying to destroy it and from the people trying to recover it. And put a pin in that because in a way, he's kind of right. We'll get there.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
so basically, we want to make a director's cut, but the materials aren't there. Or are
Are
they?
they?
So, because obviously that footage, or at least some of it, exists because I watched
Right.
it.
I was gonna say, yeah, some of it was somewhere.
But where was it?
Oh
So,
man.
director Robin, this is in around 1979 at this point, I think. So, about 6 years after, 5 to 6 years after the film was originally released, director Robin has a brainstorm. He's like, wait a second, Roger Corman had a cut. And so
Mm.
he tracks down Corman's version, and there is one remaining print, the one that had been sent to Corman, that landed at this company called Abraxas, and he uses that to make this restored version in 1979 that's about an
Oh
hour
shit.
35. This is the one that I watched. Most people
Mhm.
call it the middle version, because there's the 87-minute version, there's the hour 35 version, and there's the 99-minute version,
Okay, that
39
makes
minutes.
sense why I saw like a range of minutes
Yes, there are
like of what the difference was. Okay, which
many
is
different
yeah.
versions.
Okay, that makes sense.
So the middle version is, I believe, the only one I've seen. I've not been able to find the 99-minute version. The 99-minute version, though, mainly gets preserved on VHS with that extra
Mhm.
4 minutes or so. So differences between them, we talked a little bit about some of these. We hear a lot more of Howie's life on the mainland in the longest version. The longest version actually gives us scenes of him at the police station with his coworkers,
Interesting.
showing that like they're all looking at him as like this prude and very stuck up, and really giving us this sense that like he's isolated on the mainland too.
Yeah,
Um,
interesting.
the version that I saw, we get a short scene with his fiance at the beginning, but we don't get the police station. We talked about the island, the first night that gets cut. I love that scene. I think it's one of the best parts of the movie.
Mm.
All the weird, like, they have all this like slug B-roll that's just like very compelling in ways that I can't really describe. It's just great. It's great. Go watch it for the slug B-roll.
Yeah.
There's we see Howie receiving communion in every version, but
Mm.
in the director's cut we see him receiving communion at the beginning, whereas in the version you saw it gets cut in as a flashback much later on.
Yeah,
um
yeah,
which I don't know which of those I think is more effective.
yeah,
The scene where Howie interrupts Lord Summerisle and the teacher playing piano and singing in the director's
yeah.
cut, that goes on a whole lot longer. You have
Mm.
this apparently great speech that Christopher Lee gives about apples that we lose, that he's really mad that we lost, and you get Christopher Lee singing, which is amazing.
Yeah, I was gonna say that
Um,
was one of the ones that was like the most noted that I
mhm.
read when I was doing
People
that too.
love getting to hear Christopher Lee singing. There's also a scene where he interrogates the island's doctor about Rowan. I don't think we're missing that much with that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a dream sequence that was filmed but cut and never restored,
Oh no.
involving apparently a bunch of egg imagery that I
Ooh.
really want to see because
I
like
was gonna
there's a
say
lot.
all the
Yeah,
imagery is fun.
I
Yeah,
know. And like,
that's the part that's fun about it.
and there are a couple of random shots of like women holding eggs that like feel like
Mm-hmm.
they're leading towards something that we missed, and I'm like, I really want to
Yeah.
see that dream
Give
sequence
me
if this is
those
all.
eggs.
Give me those eggs back. Um So yeah, there's actually, in addition to these 4 versions that we have, there's about 15 minutes that were cut before the 99-minute version that includes things like the Apple monologue that Christopher
Mhm.
Lee wanted back in, and we've never seen that footage. We don't know where that is. We don't know if that
That's so
ever
wild.
existed. That was never sent to Roger Corman. We don't know. It's
Wild.
probably under the motorway, in a pylon. Um, so,
So sad.
how do we get the new restoration? So basically, in 2013, the rights are now owned by Canal Plus, which is this French company. And Canal Plus puts out a post on Facebook begging people to come forward with negatives of the missing footage from The Wicker Man. Yeah.
My God.
And in a totally bizarre twist,
Mm.
somebody does.
Oh my
They
God.
find a pristine 92-minute copy in, of all places, the Harvard Film Archive. So
Whoa.
Harvard has all this time
How
been
did
holding on
that?
to mysteriously this perfectly clean cut of the middle version, the one that I
Weird.
saw.
What's that
Um,
lore?
I know. So like Christopher Lee may well have been onto something.
Yeah. I mean,
Like
I just am like, how, especially back then when I feel like things, like even in the 70s, I feel like things were like logged and tracked properly. So I'm like,
yeah,
who knew someone that was like, here, take this? And someone was like, oh, I work at Harvard. Let me just put it in there. I'm like, what
exactly.
does, can someone come forward on that,
Right.
please?
And one of the points that Christopher Lee makes is like even for the restoration that was done in 79, after that like there was another batch that went missing and he was like there must have been like at least 60 prints made of that. How did
Hmm.
every single one of those mysteriously vanish? Like that takes some
Yeah.
coordinated effort. Um
Wild.
so basically they find this footage, they use the Harvard plus like kind of a franken mush together of the best versions of each scene that they can possibly
Hmm.
find. So the Harvard plus bits of the VHS footage when that's what you need, plus bits of the original, to compile kind of as close as possible to the whole as they could. And then there's an additional rumor that there's a true director's cut that's 102 minutes instead
Oh
of
my
99.
gosh.
But this is wrong. It's actually due to a mistiming error of the Roger Corman
Oh,
cut, where the person who did that timing
Jesus
for
Christ.
Abraxas just like looked at his watch before and after, noted down the time, and nobody ever double checked it. And he
Jesus
got it
Christ.
wrong by 3 minutes. And now there's all these people who will like get the Canal Plus version or get like the 99-minute versions and be like, I'm missing 3 minutes. Those 3 minutes
Jesus.
don't exist. It's not a thing. It
Oh
was
my
somebody
God.
miscounting.
That's
Um,
wild.
yeah. So anyway, as BFI actually wonderfully puts it, there's kind of like a particular appeal to this very like patchwork nature of the film in its current form, which is actually a big part of what I love about watching the middle cut. Or, you know, I still haven't had a chance to watch the full 99-minute version, but I tried to find it. But
Hmm.
um, is you get pieces of footage from all of these different versions of it in these different qualities, and you can see when you're watching a more degraded version, and as BFI says, quote, that old variation in quality, the sudden grainy sequences, are textural scars that remind us of a checkered past. The multi-generational flaws of decades-old transfer technologies are embedded in the images, forever incomplete, with something added, something removed, like an old folk ditty with lyrics honed and melodies reshaped by time. The Wicker Man remains splendidly imperfect, the perfect folk film artifact. So it's
I
like,
love that.
yeah, there's this way in which like the shape and texture of the film itself mimics what it's talking about.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, do you want to take a guess at what the box office was?
Oh my God. I can't even imagine.
It's like I
Made it
honestly
back? Maybe?
I honestly don't even know. The worldwide box office figure that's reported is 888,000, which is potentially less
Okay.
than its production budget. However,
Sure.
that data comes from Box Office Mojo, which seems in large part to be pulling from the film's re-release in 2007.
Oh,
I would
sure.
imagine that it's really, really hard to get accurate data for this film over time because there have been so many re-releases of it that,
Yeah.
like, which
Yeah.
ones do you count? Which ones don't you count? Which one is which
Yeah.
data pulling from?
Interesting.
So, question
Interesting.
mark.
Well,
We really
hopefully it
don't
made its
know.
money back,
Yeah.
or probably not. We don't.
Over time
I don't
it
know.
definitely did.
Yeah,
Did the
for
filmmakers
sure.
ever see a dime of it? Question mark.
Probably. Yeah.
Um
Probably not.
s- And if you want to get a fully restored version, Studio Canal released an updated 4K remaster in
Oh, nice.
2023, and I think that one has a whole bunch of different versions of the cut on it, so you can compare them. And moving into reception, I'm going to try and rush us through this because I know we've already gone very over, but Lee, as I mentioned, was so proud of this film that he put a whole lot of his own money and time into this, because as this film was getting like unceremoniously dumped by British Lion for all of this shady backstory reasons that we've gone over, he started basically he turned himself into a one-man Christopher Lee phone tree and started calling every single critic he knew the number of individually, inviting them to the movies and offering to buy their tickets for them.
Oh, bless him.
I know. They bought their own tickets eventually, but he was like, seriously, I will pay you to come see this film.
Yeah.
Which is so cute.
Sweet. I love that.
It got mostly good reviews at the time of its release, even though they were kind of like the condescending kind that we see a lot of when horror films like first hit the public, you know?
Of course.
And then in 1977, so in between the original release and the time we first get the director's remaster, recut with the middle version, the magazine Cinefantastique does a 37-page feature on it that I actually got the chance to read. I found like an archived copy, which is really cool, where it famously calls it the Citizen Kane of horror movies. And what they mean by that is both like its stature and the fact that Citizen Kane at the time it was released was not appreciated, and it took years for the audience reception to kind of come around. That's now like the most famous quote about the Wicker Man is the Citizen Kane of horror movies.
Interesting. I never knew that.
I had not heard that either. And I kind of see it. I can buy it.
Yeah, I get that for that context. Yeah.
It's certainly like it has spawned so much. Like, I mean, Midsommar, we would not have Midsommar if it weren't with Wicker Man.
I mean, that's a reference for that film too.
Yeah,
I just felt like
for sure.
Very,
it's so obvious that, like, we don't need to. But
for sure.
Weird reception wrinkle. Bible Belt Christian communities actually loved this film, which is shocking.
I never can guess what the fuck they want.
I know. Who knows? Here's director Robin. He says, quote, "We went to Bible breakfasts, showed the film, and there was much discussion. Funnily enough, they weren't put off by the Brit dance or anything, where Britt Eklund is doing her naked banging on the wall.
Shit, they were like, hell yeah, we get to see boobs and butt. Great."
They said, but the religious side of it, the Christians just loved. They said, this is so funny, they said it was one of the only films they'd ever seen that really explains what resurrection is about.
I'm done.
I'll never understand the Christians, man. Like,
listen, if you are one, just don't be one of those ones, please.
Exactly.
Yeah, to each their own. But goddamn, at least make a little bit of sense.
It always makes me think of like the way homophobes talk about like queerness. It's like you can be Christian, just don't shove it down my throat. You know, like just keep it at home.
Keep your opinions to yourself.
Exactly.
So wild. That's wild.
I know. I'm shocked by that. It when it was doing its re-release in 1979, it won a Saturn Award for Best Horror.
Nice.
Certainly well deserved, I think. And it now holds a 92% from critics on Rotten Tomatoes.
Damn.
And an 82% from audiences, which I was very pleased by.
Yeah, that's great.
The Guardian listed it at number 4 on its list of the top 25 horror films of all time, and the ending was number 45 on Bravo's Scariest Movie Moments. And we referenced this briefly on our Witchual episode, alongside Witchfinder General from 1968 and The Blood on Satan's Claw from 1971. It's considered one of the founding trio of films of the folk horror genre. And it spawns an unbelievable number of spin-offs across various mediums. A movie that, for all intents and purposes, was more or less a one-off rather than a franchise. So it's like, it's odd. It's odd. So, there's a novelization. There's a sequel that Schaffer wrote but never got produced called The Loathsome Lambton Worm, that apparently brought all of the characters back 30 years later by, again, having the police officers arrive, rescue Howie at the last minute. Howie then fights a dragon before, that's the Loathsome Lambton Worm, before committing suicide by jumping off a cliff while tied to a pair of eagles. So that's something that
You know,
exists.
I actually would love to see that made.
If you
I
want
gotta know
to,
what that looks like. Oh,
um,
no.
the treatment of it has been published in a book called Inside the Wicker Man, and it was made into an audio drama in 2020 that you can listen to.
Okay. I
Um,
might have to
yeah,
at least peek at that.
I'm honestly very, very curious.
I'm intrigued as hell over that.
Yes. There's the 2006 remake, widely considered one of the worst films of all time. Director Robin agrees. There's the bees of it all. There's all this different stuff. There's
Yeah.
The Wicker Tree, which Hardy directed from a book he wrote called Cowboys for Christ, has Christopher Lee come back. He wanted to do a third version, which was going
Wow.
to be
Wild.
like a comedy and quote unquote the gods get their comeuppance. I see the whole thing in parentheses as the last act of Wagner's Ring cycle. He also wanted to release a
Jesus.
comic book. There's like a 50th anniversary behind the scenes book that just got made. There's all this stuff.
Yeah.
The founders of Burning Man say that this wasn't a reference, but
Oh,
you know,
please.
let's fill in the gaps.
Oh,
Burning Man
please.
started in
Yeah.
the 80s, so like it's
Listen, we all
it was
know.
afterwards.
They just have to say that so they don't get sued, probably, by whatever
Indeed.
estate owns the property now. So, yeah.
Well said. There was a reference to the maypole scene during the opening ceremony for the 2012 Olympics,
Mm,
where they had like a bunch of kids dancing around a maypole.
yeah.
And I'll end us with an Eli Roth quote because he loves this
Oh,
movie so very, very much.
hey.
He says, quote, "It's a brilliant film that was way ahead of its time. It explored the differences in religion from every angle, from sex to death, and ultimately to sacrificing yourself to your God."
Mhm.
So, on that
Nice.
note of sacrificing ourselves to the film gods, I feel like I have
Truly.
sacrificed our entire evenings at this point, and we should wrap it up.
No, I
But,
love this. These were beefy
um,
ones for
yeah, this
sure.
was a really, we knew this was going to be a
Oh my
really
God. I
beefy
mean,
pairing.
yeah,
Um,
honestly, keeping this at what we did, I'm well
is pretty
impressed.
impressive. Yeah,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
did better than we could have.
Yeah. What a
Um,
wild story around Wicker Man, though. So many silly. It makes it, I don't know, like that's what I wanted it to be considering what the
yeah,
film was. So I'm like very delighted that it was kind of
good.
just
It's
yeah,
silly
okay.
goofy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
sure,
I
let's
just love
put the
it.
guy on like a yoinkable string to pull him out the back of the Wicker
God.
Man and actually set him on fire.
Just
Sounds like a great
yeah.
plan. Yeah, let's put
So
the movie
crazy.
into the pylons for the M3 motorway. All great ideas.
Like
Fabulous.
none of it sounds like real.
Yeah,
It just feels like all like a practical joke
it
in
really
like the best
does.
way.
It
A
really
good
does.
practical joke.
Hmm
Oh my God, I love that. That makes me like it more.
I'm
So
so glad. I feel like we both
yeah.
hopefully came out of each of our sections liking the other more. I definitely
Yeah.
did. You definitely
Okay. At least the
made
making of.
me.
That's all you had to kind of
Yes.
like,
No, it's
bits of
true.
the so
I
many
have
people that make a film. It's not just the director. So
indeed.
I
Well
I
said.
hope
Yeah.
you
You
know.
gave you opened up my heart a little bit.
Yeah.
The
And you're
Grinch's
like
heart grew
now
2
yeah.
sizes that
And you're
day.
like, and now I can never watch the movie again. I'm
Exactly. That's my
done.
plan.
You've
Yeah.
done your part, and I'm very proud of you. I appreciate you for letting me get through those. And yeah, it was I'm happy. I'm delighted to say I did not hate Wicker Man because
I'm
it's
so
sometimes like I
pleased.
hate hating stuff. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's
Like I
not
don't want to
fun.
hate
We want to
things.
watch stuff that we enjoy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so I'm happy to add this to I'm happy to talk to other people about this film now in a way
Yeah.
where I've watched it and I like it and I can converse about it. So it's
Indeed.
I'm happy about that. And I
Good. And
definitely got to watch the better version because boy oh boy.
it makes a
I
huge
I get it.
difference.
I
It
get it.
really
And
does.
I told myself too. I was like, let me just watch it cuz I feel like that'll be a really interesting thing to talk about and
It
to say how
is.
bad it is
Yeah.
in warning to other people. Just
It's
don't do it.
true.
Watch it on your
It
computer or get a copy of it,
yeah.
which I will get a copy of it now at this point.
And honestly, the version that's on archive.org for free is like a very good transfer. Like the picture quality is
It was
surprisingly good.
honestly laziness of being on my computer
Oh,
and not
no, I
wanting to
totally get
watch.
it. I
And I could have hooked it up
100%
with the
get it.
cords, but then I didn't want to
It's
hook it up
yeah,
and
it's
do
a
the
lot of
thing. But
effort.
do the thing, everybody. It's worth
It's
doing the
it's
thing.
there and it's like genuinely a decent version.
Yeah, yeah, I believe.
So, I'm relieved that we have kind of a a
Lighter
light,
Mary.
silly, goofy pairing next
Me
time. There's
too.
gonna be
Me
a lot of
too.
good stuff, but it's not like this kind of like
heavy.
industry-shattering lore.
Yeah.
And we're kicking off
Truly.
Pride Month,
I
so
know.
what
It's perfectly timed Pride for me. It is my
I
Pride weekend, actually, where I
oh my
am.
gosh, I love
So,
that. That's so
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And I gave Al like a list of Pride horror movies,
hmm
and Al picked the ones for this one. I'm very pleased with what you picked. So
I feel, yeah, they were so many good ones that I'm like, oh, I want to do. Oh, it was hard
we'll
to like
get to all of them
pick.
at some
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like excited to bring you into a universe that I'm like a few years relatively new into and obsessed with, which
Yeah.
is we're finally going into Chucky, but not just Chucky,
About time.
Bride of Chucky.
Bride
I
of
feel like
Chucky.
we talked about Seed of Chucky, but I feel
Mhm.
like for Sienna not knowing all the things, Bride of Chucky is the best one. It's the hottest Jennifer Tilly. We
Ugh,
have, yeah,
bold
it's a good one.
statement.
It's a really, I mean, truly, like she's hot and everything, but like her
Mhm.
as Tiffany
Ugh,
in
ugh.
this movie is just god fucking damn it. And
Yeah.
it's a great one to start on. It's yeah, I'm like super excited for this to
Ugh.
be a Pride one. And then you're covering a movie that I've never seen,
Which
and I'm
shocks
really
me.
fucking excited.
I
I'm gonna love it. I
know
know it.
this one I know up and down Al's gonna
Oh
love. We're
yeah,
doing
I have no doubts.
yeah, we're doing the 1992 masterpiece Death Becomes Her.
Yeah,
It's
so
yeah,
excited.
it's gonna be
I'm
a good
so excited.
campy horror comedy queer
Yeah.
love fest.
Yeah, these are really fun Pride picks for us.
Yeah,
So
I think we did well.
I'm
And then the one after
excited.
that will be my birthday pairing. And
Yay! I'm
one
so
of them will
excited.
be
We got a
Don't Look
teaser.
Now. Yeah, the other one I'm still debating between a couple titles because I want to make sure I get something that's like beefy enough as the second pairing because Don't Look Now
Mm-hmm.
there's like plenty to research, but a lot of the horror films I love are like the ones that like I would bring
Information
in for a
light.
birthday that like we wouldn't cover otherwise are pretty information light.
Mm.
So I need to find one that's like not too information light. And I'm debating
Yeah,
between a couple. So
yeah. Ooh,
yeah.
I'm excited. I'm excited to hear
Yeah.
it.
But so we'll return to
Yay.
1973 for Don't Look Now and to the A half of the B movie pairing that The Wicker Man was released on.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that one, so I'm excited.
It's I love it so much. Yeah,
Yay. Yeah.
it's gonna be a good time.
Sweet.
I feel like I'm losing the ability to talk.
It's midnight over here,
I'm
and
so
I was up
sorry.
very early. So
I'm
yeah, I think
so
we can keep.
sorry.
We'll keep our wrap up. I hope you all are doing good, and I hope you all
Yeah.
have a great rest of your week if you're listening to this on the day it comes
Mhm.
out. Otherwise, hope you're just having as good of a day as you can.
Indeed.
Um,
World's
and
hard
you
out there. I hope horror
yeah.
is a place to gain comfort. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like we can keep it light. Thank you to Travis for our momager for putting all the funny comments as I read them by themselves as a full is like a
Mhm.
weird creepy poem that's in our group chat. So thank you for that.
We
Thank you,
just
Theo
need
Schaefer.
somebody to play some music in the background and it'll sound like songs
Listen, do a little
from
bit
The
of
Wicker Man.
coke, don't know how to
Yeah.
read music, and we got a banger.
Yeah, exactly. Recipe for a masterpiece.
That's the real lesson we can all take away from this. Speaking of music, thank you to Theo Schaefer for playing our lovely music on the way out. Thank
Travis
you, Sienna.
says, thank you, Al, for keeping us sane and on track. Travis says that he's busting out his ocarina.
Yeah, let the ocarina play us out. And I think let's just keep it there. Thanks for listening to Splice Splatter.
The podcast where classic horror
meets modern gore. And until
until
then,
next time, we'll be
right
right back.